Morning, everyone. This meeting of the Civil Service Commission of the County of Maui is now in session. Today is Wednesday, August 26th, and it is 9:07 a.m. We are meeting in the Corporation Council conference room on the third floor of the County of Maui building at 200 South High Street in Wailuku. This meeting is also being broadcast via Microsoft Teams. My name is Arnold Wonder, and I'll be conducting this meeting today. We want to recognize in attendance Yukari Murakami and Christy Trenholm from the Department of the Corporation Council, and Misha Lokoko, who is the secretary to the commission. The first item of business is our roll call. So, Commissioner, as I call your name, please confirm your attendance for the record. Vice Chairman Gregory Jenkins.
Present.
Commissioner Sharon Suzuki.
Present.
Commissioner June Lee.
Present.
Commissioner Sarah Pajimola is excused from today's meeting, but we do have a quorum and we are able to move forward. Our next item of business would be public testimony. I see no one in the conference room to offer public testimony. Is there anyone online that would like to offer public testimony? Seeing no responses, either online or via chat, we'll close public testimony for now and move forward to our business today, which is the review of the timeline and selection process for the new director of the Department of Personnel Services. So, Greg, I'll turn some time over to you to tell us where we stand and what we need to do today.
Thank you, Chair. So I know from our last meeting, we had intended to adjourn that meeting so that we can continue the past meeting. So we have a new meeting. We did a regular adjournment. So here we are with that. So I guess the items that we discussed at the last meeting, we can have, they're on the agenda, so we could consider those today. And then any new business to bring up, yeah, that was a continuation. At our last meeting, we had narrowed down the list of candidates on the, and the intent there had to do with the differential in scoring off of the rubric, as we remember. And so I think our intent today is to, as you mentioned, look at the timeframes for moving forward. One of the considerations was the decision by the commission that voted in the last meeting to have the full commission conduct the interviews, and then the details regarding all those specifics are pending. One of the items that we have in front of us today is to look at the reference questions that we brought up at the last meeting, and then I believe today would be the appropriate time, because we have time to review that, reduce those down to a lower number that was discussed at our last meeting. And then also we have the leader's intent prompt that we would send out to the candidates. And then we also have to discuss our mode of communication with the candidates in any specific details that we discussed at our prior meeting with Corp Council on how that communication would work, who's going to be making that contact, and the things that we're going to talk about with the candidate. So that's the general overview. So to start, do we want to pick the easiest one to do would be to address that reference questionnaire. Mm-hmm. Last time we had an updated, we had talked about it and reducing it down.
I think you also made suggestions on which ones you would
Yes,
propose keeping of the 24.
correct.
I believe so. Maybe that would be a good place to start.
Okay.
Do we have?
Do you folks have that?
I have.
It was part of the handout from the last meeting.
Yes, you took notes on that. I think you circled those.
Oh yeah, I have notes on
if you want
my version. Do you need a copy? It has all my notes on, but I'm happy to there.
Yeah, I just have the ones that we had on the prior sheet.
Thank you.
So looking for, but I have that in here.
Okay, because
You just circled the ones we had,
that
right?
you suggested keeping, I believe. I added some of my own notes and
I don't think it was a perfect
suggestions for
10.
changes. No, it wasn't, but
It was a start.
It was about 11, so
Yeah.
that would be a good place to start, I think,
Yeah.
instead of
Okay.
going over all 25
Yeah.
or more.
And again, the
Yeah.
purpose we're doing this is based on a comment that Christie had made about how
Yeah.
he had been asked to be a reference, and there were
Yeah.
so many questions that
Yeah, I was asked,
there's a reference.
so for the selection of judges in Hawaii, they have a reference questionnaire, and I think I misspoke, and I said 10, but I think there was maybe only 8 questions. I'm gonna just double check it here, but it was much shorter, but it still took me a very long time to complete that. So just wanted to be mindful of the people who are not the applicants spending time to fill something out. And if you can capture what you're looking for in, you know, ideally maybe like 6 to 8, 10 max would be
Okay.
more.
I think that's good because her suggestion to narrow down the questionnaire to the candidates up front as one of our screens. It's a good thing it wasn't 20 because we reviewed all those questions and rated or used the responses to questions to do the rubric, right?
Mhm.
That would have been way more.
You
We would have been
there.
there all night and into the next morning for the meeting.
Correct.
So, I mean, I think, like you said, maybe capturing the intent
Yes.
and
Key elements.
yeah, the main message should come through from the reference,
Yeah.
yeah. So, because we'll also have to review that as part of our selection process, right?
And actually, it doesn't matter what the references say, right? It's more what comes out in the interview at the end. Right? That's the bottom line. How the candidates perform in the interview.
We want it all to match up, right?
Yeah, and I think that's an important part of like the due diligence. You know, there's the pre-offer due diligence, so like the reference checks, the education verification, the employment verification, and typically
Yeah.
when you call, employers will just give dates of employment, like you want to confirm those, and then sometimes they will share more, but typically only confirm dates of employment. But still, you know, that's important due diligence. And then the professional references that the candidates will offer.
So right now there's 9 questions.
No, so you want me to go over my
Sure.
chicken scratch?
Yeah.
So for the questionnaire, professional relationship, I think the circled, wait,
2 and 3.
2 and 3 were circled. This is what Greg suggested keeping from our last meeting. Under leadership, number 4. Under human resources expertise, 8 and 9. Under integrity and professional judgment, 11. Communication and collaboration, numbers 15 and 16. Under strategic leadership, 18. And under overall assessment, 23, 24. And some of
That's you.
the other things are maybe my suggestions for, I tried to combine or, you know, ask them to provide examples because I think that was very useful when, instead of just answering the question, if they can give a specific example like this, especially for the candidate, right, from their work experience, it's kind of is a stronger response, right? And we can assess whether it really meets what we're asking for and stuff. So anyway, so I mean, we can start with the
first group in the professional.
the ones that he suggested keeping. Maybe you folks want time to look at the whole thing.
First of all, number 3, we need to add a D to supervise. Oh no, I'm sorry, my bad. You need to work to supervise. That's correct. Everybody good with keeping those 2 questions or make any changes on that? Okay. Number 4, Sharon, you have a note there too.
Oh, yeah. I think I
Add
just
2
tried to
questions.
combine 4 and 5. So it's just 4. I think you may have suggested 4 and 5. I'm sorry. So I did, please evaluate the candidate's effectiveness as a leader, including the candidate's ability to build trust, motivate employees, and manage teams. So
combine.
kind of just
Yeah,
one
one
question, but
Okay.
captures the essence of the second question.
Very good. Take us through the rest, Sharon, since you've already, you're doing so well with that.
All right. So, I mean, folks want to kind of glance at human resources expertise. On the next page, under integrity and professional judgment, I just, the suggestion was to keep number 11, and I just said, please provide at least one example or something like that. On the candidates, describe the candidate's integrity and ethical standards, right? But to me, an example of why they're saying whatever they say would be good. Communication 15 and 16 about communicating with various parties and navigating competing interests. For strategic leadership, number 18, I just suggest adding, oh, I think I tried to combine again. So for 18, how would you assess the candidate's ability to think strategically and align human resources initiatives with organizational goals? Provide examples of the impact the candidate had on the organizations they served or they
Combining
have
18 and
served.
19 into one.
I'm trying to, I mean, with change different
Yeah.
wording, right? I mean, we can refine it.
That's good.
Yeah, that's good.
And that's it.
23 and 24.
Those were your suggestions to keep.
Right, okay.
Yeah.
All right.
So I guess what we might want to do is, like Christy suggested, I think this was, what did I count? 1, 2, 3.
11, right?
Yeah, but she's right. So I guess I would look at human resources expertise. Maybe do we need both? I know we've asked the candidate similar questions, but now we're asking the reference, right, to see kind of if it aligns.
I guess for that one, I had a comment to add. I think it's important to have a question on this topic, but
Right.
not if you need to.
Yeah.
But I think to add that we would want to include labor relations.
Oh, yeah.
Unionized, so we want
Okay.
to have that.
Yeah, if we change, yeah.
And then I think you're saying the knowledge of human resources administration and management, but I also think just HR expertise, like the nuts and bolts of it, that's important to understanding the different facets of HR.
And wasn't public, I mean, it has to be public. We talked about this because one of the MQs is public sector, I think, personnel administration or something. We talked about it and how we would weight it as we kind of started using the rubric, right? I think we discussed it before we even reviewed, but do we have one of the rubrics?
Oh, the rubric,
Yeah.
yes. Right here.
Anyway, but so yes, I agree with you. Something about personnel. Wait, so are you saying human resources administration and management?
I was saying,
Right here, Sharon.
including labor relations.
Sure.
Because we have that in question.
We combine 8 and 9.
Yeah, maybe that's what I'm thinking. We can probably
Yeah,
do
that's what-
So add in the labor
you
relations.
want knowledge or well, we can always say knowledge and effectiveness.
I had like describe the candidate's HR and personnel administration expertise, because they all are experts or they wouldn't be. I mean,
Well, you don't know that. I guess you're assessing that.
okay. And then how they effectively applied it to strengthen the workforce. Because I do think that there's a part of this that like is important about like the creativity. Like within the roles, we need to figure out a creative approach because we don't have staffing, right, at the county level that's necessary. Including civil service, employment law, recruitment, employee or labor relations, classification, compensation, or organizational development. So that kind of tried to combine both of them.
Wouldn't we assume that classification and compensation will be part of the civil service system already? Isn't that being a little redundant?
I mean, yeah, you could kind of maybe
take this
Take,
out?
no, I mean, you could take out civil service system, include that,
Including, so just,
certification compensation.
so take out including civil service.
Can you read it again?
Sorry. Yes. Describe the candidate's HR and personnel administration expertise and how they effectively applied it to strengthen the workforce, including civil service, employment law, recruitment, employee and labor relations, classification, compensation,
Oh, okay,
and
yeah,
organizational development.
that would be good.
Yeah.
You're kind of combining both.
You can take civil service probably.
Take out civil service. Okay, so including employment law like that.
Say including, but not limited to. Is that too much of a lawyer comment?
Yes, very.
I use it all the time.
The JD is coming
Frequently.
out. That's okay, that's
Keeps
why
it
you guys are
open-ended.
here.
You know?
Someone wants to add something? Yes. So
No, I think it's the including, I don't think necessarily, you know, you
It
have to
doesn't
like
limit.
add,
Yeah.
yeah, it doesn't limit it.
Yeah,
to-
read
It's a long
that.
sentence.
Sure.
Yeah,
It
yeah,
is,
yeah.
I think that's,
So I would take out that, it's not limited.
I guess the rubric or MQ that Greg and I were using, it just was in the posting, right?
So this was off of
You can read it.
HRS 76 and 75, 76 or 75 in the Maui County Charter 8-9.2. So the MQ that existed was merit system and scientific personnel principles demonstrates thorough familiarity with principles and methods of public personnel administration and a commitment to merit principles and scientific administrative methods. So I think that that's the alignment with that particular question.
Yeah. Yeah,
Right.
because,
I mean, I think that's the MQ, right? So you screened that already, and now you're looking at
yeah,
maybe the next.
I think that's, yeah,
So
Because-
both things, I think.
yeah, that
Meeting that
public personnel administration was critical, right?
Mhm.
Okay. Yeah, good combination. So we have,
So Gene, at some point, maybe if you have service, if you can email that to Misha,
Yes.
yeah,
and then we could make sure that, because you have this, I can make sure you have the questionnaire too in Word, and then we can amend that. I can cut and paste and then add. Can G send that to me, and I can take that and cut and paste it in my document, so we don't have document. We have version control. Is that okay? For amended question number combination 89.
Just,
And then I'll be able to provide the updated document. And then I could work with Sharon too on her combined.
oh, sure.
We can do that separately and then have a document that becomes, we don't have to do it to finalize a document, or just that we have those combined questions we've agreed to, or we need to see the finalized document today.
Oh, should we change it now, live?
I can do it
You
live
have-
time, if that's okay. I have it.
Yeah,
up on
because then I
mine
can
right
give
now.
her my changes.
You
and
have
you'll
that
have
now?
my document. How's that?
In that section?
Would it be better
Yeah, I
that-
think it's better that way, the team on a lifetime and then send.
Perfect.
straight.
Okay, and then I'll give her my.
But yeah, make sure you look at it after, so I don't mess anything up.
Just
Yeah.
when you retitle it, you just put like a reference date to today.
Me2 or something, or yeah, okay. Will do. So we're keeping questions 2 and 3 from professional
Yeah,
relations.
that's what you guys think.
Fine. Those are separate and standalone.
Yeah,
Okay.
those are
important.
short.
Yeah.
So I don't think.
Number 4 just got combined.
4, I said, please evaluate the candidate's effectiveness as a leader, period. Oh, come on, including the candidate's ability to
Got it.
build trust, blah, 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 blah. That's it.
Okay.
I kept the rest, yeah.
Got it.
And then you have the next one.
And then the next one.
And under integrity and professional judgment, describe the candidate's integrity and ethical standards. Provide at least one example. Oh, no.
So we're adding provide at least one example.
Yeah, so it's still one question, but I thought. And 18, similar.
15 to 16.
Oh, wait, let's go back to that after. No change right now.
Okay.
I would suggest trying to eliminate one, maybe. How would you assess the number 18 under strategic leadership? How would you assess the candidate's ability to think strategically, provide examples of the impact the candidate had on the organizations they served or something, on the organization maybe they served. It's kind of combining 18 and 19.
Yep.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And for communication and collaboration, do we need both? I guess it's just a question.
I think we should keep 50. Yeah.
Would speak to just, this is like my comment here, as you know, like, I think that's really important, like the change management piece, that is going to be huge for us moving forward.
So
So I do like 16.
yeah,
Maybe you can combine it, like describe the candidate's communication skills and ability to navigate.
okay, sure.
I don't know if that's too.
Yeah. Describe the candidate's ability to communicate effectively.
Oh.
Navigate interests.
Oh, okay, right.
Manage conflict.
Yes.
Build consensus and
I like
make
that.
difficult executive decisions when
Yes.
necessary.
Well, that's a good
And
one.
that kind of seems
Because
to combine all of
that's,
I guess when necessary, and like bringing people on board with that, right? Because you want that,
like getting buy-in. in
yes,
that way.
the buy-in piece.
Mm.
That's, I think, critical.
I think, this is a high-level leadership role in a time of change, which would be probably very, very chaotic from the beginning. So how do you lead?
Right.
How do you lead in that type of environment, right?
Mm-hmm.
So have they done it? And good.
Right. And then you
I like that.
I mean, there's so many stakeholders with this role, right? Because you have the
Yes.
internal DPS staff who are very like important, but then you have all the departments as well. So
And the public.
And the public.
and the public. So
Gain the necessary buy-in to move forward. Does
Yeah.
that sound okay?
Yes. You want to reread that one?
Sure. Describe the candidate's ability to communicate effectively, navigate competing interests, manage conflict, build consensus, make difficult executive decisions, and gain the necessary buy-in to move forward.
Ooh, good,
yeah, okay.
good, excellent. So we have about 9, I think. Oh, how many questions do we have?
Sorry, my numbering is all off, so I have to switch it up.
Okay.
The 23 and 24, that would be 9.
That's nice.
I think the first two are kind of
Yes, simple.
simple ones.
And the last one is kind of a catch-all.
Yeah.
Do we
Okay,
need
I
to,
think that's good.
make a motion to accept that and vote?
Yes, but I wonder if Tia can,
Yeah.
actually email it to me and I can print it out, so you
Let's do that.
can change it. No.
Thank you.
Version 2.0. Right, and then we can take a motion to either accept or not accept version 2.0.
Okay.
Thank you, G, for doing that.
So Chair, is it okay to move forward on our items, and then when that gets printed, we can come back to it?
Sure.
So one of the next, so now that we've got past the candidate questionnaire,
Reference question.
excuse me, yeah, the candidate reference questionnaire, thank you. We need to talk about the prompt for the leader's intent. So, have the commissioners had a chance to review that, and is there any discussion on that?
Oh, do you folks have it? It's the candidate assignment leader's intent statement. It was, I don't know what exhibit it was in the packet.
I don't think
I,
That was a copy that we made at the last meeting.
okay, yeah.
Sorry, I'm gonna send this to you.
It's actually worked out well. It's in our office.
Yeah.
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 So while we're working,
Cover letter or something.
what's that?
Did you draft the cover letter to go with this?
No, that's actually on my list. It was
No
an
worries.
information letter that I think that's gonna be a collection of a lot of the things that we're discussing. That might go out via email to the candidate. That'll
Yeah.
address a whole calabash of follow-up questions, anything specific from corp counsel, dates, times,
Yeah.
the prompt. It'll maybe list that kind of similar to the job announcement intent, but more of a letter that explains all these things, and then some of the disclosures that we spoke about in terms of everything from sequestering to their ability to opt out if they're concerned about the public process, all those pieces. So I think we do have a letter to draft that
And I don't think you all decided last time if you were gonna require them to come in person. I think that you were leaning that way, but I don't know if you ever voted on that.
I don't think I was voted on that.
No,
No.
we didn't.
And then, so,
We for sure need to give them notice that it's gonna be public, so
right,
at this point, they can decide how they want to move forward, like let their supervisor know or whatever, right? Because yes, there was one candidate who's not in the finals 4 and 6, who specifically said, please do not contact my employer. Or let me know before you contact my employer,
right,
because they're not aware.
right.
But
So-
not in our top 6.
Right, but just, I think we should be, respect that, yeah, mindful of that, yeah.
You
Because
know,
this is
for
a very different process from private.
totally different process, yeah. And if you are gonna have them come in person and do the sequestering like Greg discussed last time, for those who are off island, that might be something that they then choose not to
Right,
participate,
right.
and then, on your top 6, it's three Hawaii residents, 3 non-Hawaii residents, so that could take you down out of your top 6 potentially. If the.
I think the plan was to go with the top 4
Right.
first
Well,
No, but I'm
that's-
saying,
and
if,
backfill from there.
Yeah,
if the off-island individuals decide that they don't want to come to Maui, then,
then we were gonna go down to the next
to this.
right,
2, right?
Up to 6, up to 6.
Yeah. And if we didn't have a pool or a guest,
We
whatever, we would reconvene and
Right.
make that
if it
decision.
was only the 3 who are Hawaii residents decide to come in person, then you would just sort of forward.
Yes, yes, as long as they're in the top 6.
Yeah.
Yeah, yes. I think that wasn't that our agreement?
Yes.
Okay.
That's what we discussed
Yes,
last time.
just-
but
no,
we didn't
that's
vote
good.
on it.
So, I do have a question. So, one of our assignments was to go over the interview questions. And I asked it at the last meeting, but I'm sorry, I forgot. But, is that something we can take into executive session to narrow down the questions? So it's not made public? Because I think one of our interests, at least as the TIG, was that we asked preliminary questions which the candidates responded in writing. But we had some specifically where we wanted them to not necessarily prepare because we want them to, we would like to observe how they think kind of
On
in
their
a
feet.
stressful, yeah, and in a stressful situation because that's more the reality of the job, right? So,
And I think we also talked about perhaps inviting the former director
right,
to talk
Oh.
more about the day-to-day.
he has 2, I think. I think you have 2.
Okay. Oh, I don't know.
That's an extra sheet for some reason.
That's all I bring up.
Okay.
But yeah, thinking on your feet, I think is a huge component of this job. And I think we talked about having the former director maybe come and speak about the day-to-day demands, but I work very closely on all the personnel matters and I get calls all day long about crazy things and you just have to try and figure it out, right?
Right.
Because it's like,
And some might take research, but I mean, what's the situation and how does this person in an interview, which is stressful, right? Situation conduct themselves, right?
I think we have on those,
So, are we able to discuss interview questions in executive session is my question.
I think we might be able to if there's like a specific, that's like the privacy interest in protecting the application process that,
Okay, because I think that's what we had preferred.
right?
Absolutely, and maybe,
Because we already, the ones that went public were the ones in the questionnaire that the candidates submitted.
correct. So, and we only put out the 10 of the total questions that we had. We drilled it down, remember, in our work together as a TIG. So, I think that maybe for consideration based on Sharon's, suggestion, is that I don't think we have to decide on the interview questions today. And we also know that Sarah was working with some resources to look at the questions and what she was going to provide.
Okay,
So maybe if we can agree that we would take a vote on with Corporation Council's approval, that we are gonna, at our next meeting, come back and look at the questions in executive session and vote on them. That would be adequate.
Is that, you want to do that in the next meeting?
Yes.
Okay, they were just asking if they could go into executive session to determine the final interview questions for the candidates. And like, because they don't want it to be public, because they want them to be able to think on their feet. And I'm thinking potentially because of like the privacy interests of the process. Like, the civil service, BPS doesn't provide some of the like examination materials in a public records request, because that, could undermine the process. So I think that argument could be applicable to this situation, but we can research it if you guys are not planning on doing it.
Yeah, we don't have to
today.
do it today, then everyone can review, because the list we had in the packet was different from our original
Correct.
list. And this is my chicken scratch one again, where we figured out, we had a list of 25 questions for the candidate preliminary questionnaire. And I was part of that meeting, and I think Greg finished with Yukari and Christy, and the 10 were the ones that were sent out. But some of the others were the ones where we discussed it with our TIG, right? That we thought those may be better to be asked in person, and so they don't have time to prepare or do a Google search or an AI search, right?
You're at 26, doesn't it? Less than this one.
26. What?
Okay, yeah, I think some of them I got formatted a bit weird. I think I had a formatting issue, is why the ones I printed out to you guys were different. This is the original list, so.
No, the questions were different though from the one that was in the exhibit C. Oh, this is the final, that's all.
Yes.
Sorry. Maybe that's the
Correct.
thing. Okay, exhibit C.
So what I do have for our consideration is the original total 26 questions that the TIG went through and narrowed it down, similar to what we just did in the reference questionnaire. And then, so I do have the original list. So those are just ideas for the questions that we didn't ask, that you guys can look at as an example. Sarah was working on some items. Any of us can bring those back, whatever questions we want, and then we can kind of take the time to put those questions down, considering for council's research on if we can do that in executive session. I would also want to ask that same question that Sharon did in terms of the prompt for the leader of intent. I know we might not be able to do that, or that might not be as important, but we're discussing that prompt today. And it was a public record in the last meeting, so I don't think that there's any need for us to do that. I think that the intent here is with the integrity of the questions for the process. I think if we do the executive session, I think that's a good thing for them to research, but also it also protects when we get the leader's intent back from the candidates, that we're going to be able to read those and then develop any follow-up questions as commissioners for the candidate based on their responses. And that's going to be their own, individual work. And then we're going to be able to verify more about what they said. in that submittal. So that's kind of a combo intent. And so we really, in our interview process, we're gonna have, maybe, let's just say hypothetically, three main parts. The questions that they answered, well, four actually, the questions that they answered that we asked them in the interview, any follow-up questions that we have for their presentation on their leader's intent that they give us, that they're going to present that, and any follow-up on what we read versus what they said. And then the last would be any questions that we had for them regarding their reference submittal. And then at all times, we would have corporation counsel with us that if any follow-up question, we would be looking for the privacy of the candidate. And if it did require a consideration for an executive question to ask a particular question that was in the public realm, that was private, we would be advised. So I think generally speaking, that's kind of the general way I think the interview would be set up. Is that, I know that's not a final, but it's just kind of general. That's kind of how we're moving forward right now.
How about if we take a step back and let's have a motion to review and approve
The question.
questionnaire three. Let's get that.
Yes.
Oh, yeah.
approved.
Oh,
Get that done.
yeah,
So
hold on.
I will-
Let's make sure that,
Quick question on that. Are we providing this as like a Google form for references to answer this? Because this looks like almost like we're giving it to the candidate to then give. I'm assuming that's not the case. If it's complete this questionnaire for 3 professional references, is that just information for us?
No, this is gonna be, this template will be provided to the candidate to be given to their references to fill out, and then they'll submit it back.
The candidates will submit it back, or the references will submit it back.
That's open to our process. Any suggestions? I mean, I know there's a couple ways to do it. One is we could ask them for their references and their contact info, and then we
Yeah.
send this questionnaire to them.
Yeah,
But the other
We
thing
get-
is this already public record?
we get a
Right.
sentence from Department of Management again then.
So I hear what you're saying.
yeah. I think that there's a little bit more honesty that can happen and come about if you're able to provide that.
Separate.
Not back to me, right? Like if I
Yeah,
give it
yeah,
to
it
you
goes-
and then, you know what I'm saying, versus
Absolutely.
it goes. So I would suggest, and what has normally happened in the HR work that I've done is
Yeah.
I receive the reference
Mhm.
information, contact people. I ask the candidate to let them know in advance, expect an email from whatever. And then we can have it filled out, and either it can be through a SharePoint form or via Word and then PDF and whatnot. I do think sometimes the
Good.
SharePoint form or like some sort of form is easier for this on the go life that we all lead, so that people will do it versus,
And
that's
fill it
been
in
my
and send it
experience. Yeah.
electronically.
Here.
And that's consistent with county processes that currently exist. For example, like for police, I mean, I've done a few of those, and you're contacted by the officer who's handling the background investigation,
Mhm.
and then they contact you as a reference that was listed, then you provide your answers to those questions back to that officer
Mhm.
who, it has nothing to do with the candidate. The candidate doesn't even know that you were of the one selected to be a reference.
Mhm.
So I think that's consistent with you, Corp Counsel. You guys, you both concur with that?
It's also
Yeah,
good,
it's okay.
it's also good the candidate doesn't see what their references say, right?
Right.
That's what we.
Oh, yeah, no, it should come back to
Correct.
us
Yeah, this
directly.
is back to us directly.
So that we need to change the instructions then,
Yeah.
right?
So we would ask the candidate to provide 3 professional references,
And
then-
the email contact,
and then the information would come from somewhere here.
yeah,
to
the
the
Department of
individual.
Management
We just could
on our
cross out
behalf, yeah.
or 3 professional references. We can just cross that out.
Yeah, just that sentence can just be eliminated.
Then a separate questionnaire for each reference must be submitted. So we can change that last statement to however we want it formatted.
So we had questionnaire too, because that was for us, right? So can we
Yes.
just say professional reference questionnaire at the title?
I think that in the
Oh.
job announcement, it was listed this way.
Oh, okay.
So that would be the only reason that we did it that way. I think it was titled that.
Sorry, I missed it.
Oh, just this questionnaire
Oh.
It
too.
was in the
Got it.
process.
Who would we need to speak with in terms of how this questionnaire could be provided to the references?
Candidate reference
Hi.
questionnaire.
Yeah, it doesn't say to.
No, it doesn't. I think it was just
Interesting.
an hour mind.
What was your-
Question one, no one was to the candidate.
Let's take that. Perfect.
Yeah.
Yes.
Sharon's right.
So I'm wondering.
Thank you.
if I don't keep
I
it.
just-
Okay. No.
That.
Okay,
I just looked at it now. If we're
I just wanna make
going
sure that
directly
we
to the
don't
reference.
send, Like people
outside of the
Yeah.
county, exactly.
So.
So Sharon confirmed that the job announcement did not have it referenced as questionnaire number 2. Now maybe on the document itself, it
Yeah, I
was, but
think
we
that's-
never included that.
we're doing questionnaire one was for the candidate, questionnaire two was for the references.
So we can say professional reference questionnaire and take out questionnaire number 2 and then
Yeah.
Okay,
what
Because
is
it's
our,
not going directly to the reference, right?
right.
so we're eliminating in the first sentence.
And it's
or-
not questions 1 through 24, right? It's 1 through 9.
Provide responses to questions 1 through 9
Yes, 1 through 9.
directly, sorry about that, I didn't fix that, directly below.
Each question in the Microsoft Word.
Well, it might not be a
document.
Microsoft Word document, right?
So what do we want?
How about just each question in the document provided?
Yes, that sounds good.
Are you editing it, G, right?
Yes.
Okay. And
I don't
then,
think we need to do this at all then. We can just take out that separate questionnaire for
Yeah.
reference.
yes,
Oh, no, good. Thank you.
Yeah.
Great.
so it simplifies that first part, and then we have our questions.
I move to. Oh, this formatting is funky, but I don't have to worry about it. Just, I move to approve the question or professional reference questionnaire as presented with the amendments that we just made.
Is there a second?
Second.
Okay, so it's been moved by Commissioner Lee, seconded by Commissioner Suzuki to accept the professional reference questionnaire as amended. Any discussion? All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
No negative votes, the motion carries. Okay. Then we agreed to drop a questionnaire to the candidates for their listing of their professional references, correct?
So that'll be a part of the
Letter.
quote cover letter that'll go to the top 4 candidates. Right, as part of what they need to provide back to us.
Yeah.
Can we maybe to move things forward then, since Chair brought that up, if we talk about the scope of that letter and agree to the scope, then we can work on that individually with Corp Counsel and commission to approve a final draft, so we don't have to carry it into another meeting for approval of that letter.
So you can just name one person or something to work on the letter.
The
With
detail.
with the details, like the actual wording with that one person, and then you guys can just approve right now.
The
what
content.
Content, yeah.
Good, oh,
what
good,
the-
because we really wanted to move forward.
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
Alright, so let's maybe make a quick list on that.
Yes.
Gee, you're doing great typing. You want to make it?
That's a quick question before we move on, because I
Okay.
did make those updates that we just did for the professional references questionnaire.
Okay.
Who do I send that to? Because
Um,
Kari?
Yeah, so
Just
just,
you.
yeah,
Okay.
and then,
We don't need a copy of it because
No.
it'll be in. Okay.
Because we're not editing it we already just voted on it, so I think we're good.
yeah.
Yeah.
The final version, I'll just give it to Misha for her to post. And
Okay.
then-
Thank you. And it says final on it. I adjusted the time.
Okay, perfect. And then I'll just, send that over to Priya so she can figure out how to jump on that.
Thank you.
So this next one would just be a bulleted list in no particular order.
Mhm.
Like that word. Including but not limited to. No particular order. Oh, boy, if it's a product of government. Okay, so to start us off, it would be, everybody just free for all here, but, we're gonna have, proposed dates for interview. We're gonna have a statement for consideration of privacy, that it's gonna be an open public interview process. That's big, we can say whatever we want. We're gonna address the sequestering of candidates during the interview process. We're gonna address the reference questionnaire instructions. All right, I'm going too fast.
Yeah. Last one, interview questions,
So we're gonna address the reference questionnaire
reference. Sure.
questions and instructions. We're going to provide them the leader's intent prompt and the respective due date and how that should be submitted. back. Instructions. Anybody else got anything?
Is this for the letter to the,
That's the cover letter for the.
so yeah, I think for me, just the FYI that you all will be doing, your pre-offer applicant screening, due diligence, so that would be employment verification, education verification,
Oh,
It was, yeah,
oh, yeah, that's right.
previous
Okay,
employment
no,
reference
good.
checks. And then the open question that I don't think we discussed last time was if you wanted to do post-offer applicant screening. So that would be a criminal background check for any conviction and a credit check. And that's under what law only allowed post-offer.
I totally agree with that. We
Yeah.
talked about that at our last meeting,
Right,
so
'cause with that
it would include that, it would include,
Just a notification, and then
right,
when we get to that point, we'll have to send disclosures and authorization from them to move forward with that. But I think it would.
But
be
let
good to
them know, yeah,
that
sure.
that's on the horizon.
yes.
And the
can we call that minimum qualifications, preferred qualifications, verification? Is that kind of a catch-all?
Like a pre-offer applicant screening kind of.
Okay, that
You know,
would
and
collect
the
on that.
pre-offer stuff that I mentioned. And then the criminal background check and the credit check are limited by law to just post-offer. So when you decide on someone
Okay.
and then you make a conditional
Offer
offer
employment.
subject to these
You have
checks.
to
Okay.
authorize it, yeah.
The criminal, we can only look at convictions, not arrests. And there's like a look back window. So I think it's 5 years for misdemeanors, 7 years for felonies, but it has to have a rational relationship to the job duties, but we don't need to put all that in the letter. But just for your knowledge, that's what the law says
Okay.
here in Hawaii.
So on the pre-screening, is it, if we just say the pre-screening that you listed that you
Pre-offer
mentioned,
screening.
pre-offer screening, that would be something that we would request them to follow up with us on before their interview? So we'd have that in the letter to have them provide that beforehand, or only if they're before we
Just
get
to
down?
let them know that what we're gonna be that the commission's gonna be doing that, like to Sharon's point about calling their employers for references, like the dates that they work there to make sure that's
Right.
accurate as stated on their resume, right? And then maybe inquiring, I mean, if they can provide like a diploma, I think that is fine, but if someone has to call their university to verify that they went there.
How do you folks do that?
So that's the thing we asked.
Because that's personnel.
DPS. They have staff in DPS who does it, but they can't do it for them.
Right.
So we would be asking Department of Management who
Yeah.
don't normally do that, I don't think. But we can check with Priya.
Yeah.
Yeah.
As long as it was maybe
Companies.
if we get like based on that criteria that you listed,
Mhm.
Christy, that we just, on this letter, it could clearly kind of enumerate that list, and if we can put that in instructions to make it simple for the candidate, we say, can this type of information, just kind of lay it all out.
Yeah,
Then
we
they
may-
could submit it.
Requesting additional information as we complete our pre-offer applicant screening process, right?
Oh, okay.
Something like that.
We can kind of look, so then they'll submit stuff easy, so we're not chasing them, and if there's something missing, then we can always go back, right?
Yeah.
That was the suggestion is to have them provide it.
Right.
Yeah.
Right.
So previous employer reference checks, education checks,
Verification,
verification.
employment verification.
And you caught the conditional offer of employment.
That's
Yeah,
the post
post-employment.
the criminal background check and the credit check.
Yeah.
if You guys want to
We
do.
would just notify them that if they are offered, that we would disclose that in this letter.
Yeah, just give them the heads up that that's.
So is this a good time to talk about requiring the mainland candidates or all candidates to,
Yes,
Oh, yes.
person.
yeah,
Before I forget though, on the letter, we should also just include a phrase, because you brought it up last time, Greg, about like, please let us know if you need any accommodation.
Oh,
for
yeah.
anyone in
Reasonable
that
accommodation.
process. Yeah.
So how do we address that here with this? It's right into Sharon's point, right?
yeah, you
It's,
did it
it's,
earlier.
if we, what would be for past practice of the county, what is a reasonable accommodation to hold an interview in person versus not in person? Is being out of state or off island, is that a reasonable accommodation for something like that?
I mean, it would depend on the situation. It's a case by case, you know, what they're asking and the reason why, right? And potentially offering a remote option if, you know, that's like there's some kind of ADA related situation where that's the offer, that's the accommodation that we can make. But I think it's okay for you to require everyone to be in person unless they say they need an accommodation.
Okay,
I think so.
that's a, we'll
Pretty
say,
good job
Do we
to
want
not
to-
meet the person, because we're not screening and then bringing them in, right? We're not doing 2 interviews, we're doing 1 interview. So I think requiring would be a good thing. I
agreed.
mean, if the person's committed, they'll come because, and that's what we need, right? I think you said something like vote with your feet because did you apply just to see, you know? And so we can move on though, right? We won't be wasting people's time.
Because we do see that a lot for our attorney positions where we get mainland candidates, they put in and then they find out, you know, they have to come here and how much it costs to get out here and all the things, and then they withdraw.
Okay, so
I-
that speaks.
Yeah, I've actually put in some of these letters, like, please do your research, because a lot of times candidates don't do their research prior to applying. And then you go through the whole process and then they're like, congratulations. And then they're like, you know, I mathed it and this doesn't make any sense for me. And it's really annoying.
No, I wonder
So I
how to adjust that too.
I think, is there a
Yeah.
legalese way? of
Yeah.
saying, can you please like look at cost of living? It's very high, you know, yeah.
Yeah,
Gas is high, food is high, housing is high and non-existent and all the things. And so I do think that it's a good salary, but still, I think it's an important thing to flag people in advance because they might not want to continue.
yeah, I mean, it's a good salary if you're living somewhere where the cost of living is good. Here it's, you know.
It's like living wage, right?
Yeah, if you're not already, yeah,
Mhm.
agreed. I think that's okay to add in.
Yeah.
Makes sense.
Yeah.
Have you looked at the cost of living and then the
Yeah.
math work for you?
I sent like a full worksheet of like this is how much it costs for bread and milk here, and this is how much the average rent is, and like, are you sure you're good? Because it was really poor wages, quite frankly, right? It's a
Oh,
nonprofit,
yeah.
so
That's
that's
all you get.
that's funny. I got one of those too in my bag.
You're on a meat stick diet.
And then real quick for the reasonable accommodation, should I say reasonable ADA accommodations specifically, or just leave it
We
vague?
just say accommodation typically.
So this is just a question for the whole group. It's the elephant in the room, but how do we ethically, if it's not a reasonable accommodation that's related to like a disability, it's just a decision to not get on a plane to be here physically for an interview. With that, if it's not an approved, legitimate, reasonable accommodation, how do we as a commission, are we given the latitude to factor that in our evaluation of a candidate?
Hi. Are you joining?
Yeah.
Hi. Whoop. Come on in.
Morning, Councilmember Walton.
Hi.
How are you?
Welcome.
Welcome, thank you for joining us.
Full here, but we can manage.
Yeah.
So how do we do that? Or what advice do you have for us on that? Because I think that there, you see that little bit of the intent behind wanting someone to be here in person, off island, out of state, or even if they're on island and they don't want to be present, they want an accommodation. How do we ethically address that? Or what can we consider in our scoring of a candidate based on those decisions?
I mean, that's more of a, I think, policy decision for you all to make on if that's like a firm requirement, like in person, if you're not here in person and you don't have a
But we don't
media company,
consider it,
yeah,
and
then
we'll consider it.
you're not gonna be considered. Or
Looking at
Yeah,
you.
why not?
that's, I mean, that's.
I mean, I'm thinking, this is such a big position. If the person isn't committed, and they're not willing to come and meet in person unless, there was a special situation. I think we should move forward because, I mean, I can't see hiring the person without meeting them, I guess is the point. So, I mean, unless we're willing to do a second interview, but it just lengthens everything. I mean, so I guess that's the option, right? If someone
And I do think
says that and we have the option to move forward that way, but then we still, and if that's the person we think we want, or we have a final two, I don't know. I mean,
Does
it
anybody,
looks like we already screened to four and we're gonna
Right.
select one, so
and I think,
we need to
in
meet the person.
the like few years ago now, but like the police can
right, I was gonna ask about that. How did that go? How did that go?
all the candidates to be in person,
Okay.
even from out of state.
And if you choose not to come, then you're off. Next, right?
I think that was the case. I wasn't assigned to them and I don't know, but that's.
Or
what
maybe you
my
could figure out the language that we can communicate then to the candidates that.
I think we should say that
In person.
It's
in
required.
person is required.
Yes,
Because Christie, you said that's a policy decision on our part, so we're establishing a policy right now.
so do we have to vote on
We need a motion on that.
I think we could put it in your letter and then you can
Just
vote
on
on
the
the
letter.
on the content of the letter? Yeah, okay.
Okay, that's at the top of the bullet point list.
Okay, any commissioners, any other, including but not limited to, are we like, we can't really have that open ended here. We have to set the scope on it, right? So is there anything else we want to add to that letter? I think that we
Process. The additional information is what I wrote.
because we talked about instructions, like for the interview, we addressed, I think we had the information for the interview day, all the different instructions for whether it's sequestering or other factors. It could be cell phone use, things of that nature. Right? Anything like that, right?
Separate, right?
Right, but those would be the details, but if we just, as long as we've covered it adequately, we can put that scope in the letter, right?
Okay, I think so.
Okay.
Do you want to read back?
Yeah, thank you.
Can we hold on a second? Councilman, Paul, can we welcome you? Do you know everyone here? Do we need an introduction?
I think I don't
Misha Lococo is the secretary to the commission. I would say that's an accurate statement. But you know everyone else? Arnold Wonder, Rick Jacobson?
Yeah,
Okay.
and I knew all of them in their other lives before.
These people had lives before. Well, thank you for joining us.
Most of you used to be in the water with
On a 911 call.
Okay, so are we prepared to review that letter or do we vote on it now?
It's the content
I
of the
think
letter.
just the
Bullet pointed content, yes, so.
Want that, and then I think assigning one person, approving one person to work with, Priya and us to work on the actual draft of the letter, to approve the letter.
Mm.
So that you don't have to do another separate.
Yes,
motion,
meeting,
another
yeah.
motion, Yeah.
Oh, or a
Okay.
motion, okay.
because your intent is to finalize this letter and send it out on Friday.
Correct, right?
That sounds good.
Like tomorrow?
G, are
One more
you,
day, one more day, G, one more day.
I just that in my notes from last time, send it out.
your expert mind in formatting, are you interested in working on that piece?
I would like to run through some of the like specific sequestering things and whatnot, though, to
Okay.
make sure I get those.
And then
Can we only have one person work with G and one other commissioner? Or is that considered, does that have to be a TIG, or can we just two commissioners work to collaborate on that to?
No, because then they all.
you would work with
Can you-
council then, right?
Could you send me the list? Like, can he email me the list of the specific things?
For sequestering,
Sequestered, that's all I need.
and then she could put that in the
Yeah.
content? Or do you want me to email you, Kari?
Yeah, maybe.
Okay.
It might be better.
Yeah.
The details, yeah.
Do you guys want to just talk about it now?
Do you have the list right now that you can?
No, it's pretty simple. It's just about, excuse me. It would just be, when we would sequester, we would have a venue. The venue would, once you enter in, you'd be checked in. We would have a, kind of like a pull number out of the hat, who gets to go first. seeing that we got this down to 4 candidates, it's gonna make it a more reasonable timeframe. And then the individuals, we'd have accommodations for them in there, you know, snacks or ability to use the restroom. We would inform them that, they could have a cell phone for emergencies purposes. But please keep it on, you know, silent, so it doesn't bother anybody. And then, but not to be making or taking calls or texting. If there's an emergency, then you'd notify maybe one of the proctors that were there to come over and you know, I know that this might seem a little odd, but observe you trying to resolve your emergency without having a conversation. I mean, now the fact that they're sequestered and the interview would be private, they're not going to be privy to information. So I don't think that's going to be a big deal. But if for some reason we just don't want someone having hostile conversations during that process. But we
Right,
also don't
getting
want to
past
take,
the interview questions.
yes, we also don't want to take away their cell phone. I think that'd be
That's kind of-
excessive.
Yeah.
That's excessive.
So somehow we could balance that. We'll figure that out.
I think these are all professionals,
Yeah.
so they will,
I'll understand.
hopefully.
And we know the intent is to protect their own participation in the process.
Right.
And so I think one thing as a commission, we've discussed this before, is that we're on the Merit Appeals Board, you know, or technically, right? Civil Service Commission, they're going to be judging us on our integrity of the process that we created for them, that they're going to be responsible to administer for the whole county. So I think that they'll appreciate the fact that we're trying to do things to lend integrity to the process.
Would we require that an individual, once they're done with their interview, we require them to stay, or can they leave?
And we talked about that.
I guess maybe, do you think you would call them back for anything?
I don't know if you can necessarily keep them if you're
Right.
done.
Yeah.
Right? But then the other thing is, are you gonna be doing like anything after the 4 or interviewed and done? Are you gonna be calling back any of them for a further follow-up question after all 4 have been interviewed? Is that gonna be a possibility?
I guess the wild card is also the public testimony piece, you know, if something comes up in public testimony, are you gonna wanna call someone back?
Can we just ask them to have their cell phones on and available for a potential call if required?
Yeah,
And then release them once they're.
Yeah,
Yeah.
that we don't want to re-sequester them.
right, hours.
Yeah, but
Right.
be available.
Yeah.
To
Hello.
to return or possible additional questions or something. Because yes, you're right. I mean, if we do get public testimony, it may trigger more questions for
Right.
us, right?
Yeah.
And this is to make the final decision. So
Right, we
that's
wanna
pretty
kinda-
critical. Okay, I think
If
having them,
anything,
okay, if we can do that, that's probably the better option.
Okay.
Is it like, let's say I go first and then I go out, can I join?
Yes.
Right?
You can, yeah, you
Mhm.
can't stop
You
them.
can't stop them.
Yeah.
but people have already done their part,
Yeah.
so.
So it's not gonna, because you don't necessarily have to. you just
And
call them
so
back.
we're not allowing them to come back to, I mean, we would have to call them back.
Yeah, you would have to call them.
I'm just imagining you would call them back if something came up in public testimony that you needed to address with them, and maybe you can have to go into executive session.
Right. If
Something
it was like
concerning.
Yeah.
So we could set a parameter like from maybe to respect their time and schedule. We could say from this time to this time, please be available to take a phone call.
End of work today, kind of thing.
Oh, yeah, end of day, yeah.
Yeah, just holding them there after their interview to sit around and wait till everybody's done doesn't make sense.
So for the remainder of the day, we want them available
By phone,
by phone, right?
once they're released.
I can incorporate
Would
that.
we possibly call them back though, in person,
Yeah, I mean, I think you would.
right? If we had an additional question,
Or
like,
do you want to make it available by phone or to return?
To return.
yes,
Okay.
yes, because like she said, if something comes up that requires it, I mean, I think we'd like to question them in person.
Yeah, well, they're
This-
here, right?
To get us to final decision, right? So I think it's
Okay.
pretty critical.
Should we read the bullet points then?
Sure.
Thank you, that was really helpful. So candidate cover letter will include in-person interview being required, proposed dates for that in-person interview, statement of consideration of privacy, that this is an open public interview process, we'll address the sequestering of candidates during the interview process, all the things we just talked about. We'll address reference questionnaire and the instructions on how to fill that out. We'll provide the leaders intent prompts and respective due dates and how it should be submitted back, the instructions for that. An FYI that we will be doing background checks for pre-employment or offer applicant screening.
We will be doing,
Pre-employment verification.
we would be doing pre-offer applicant screening.
Sorry.
Pre-offer.
Applicant screening,
Okay.
And that we're gonna say,
employment verification, education verification, previous employment reference checks.
Employment and education, yep.
And then the post-offer applicant
That's the
screening,
next
the
bullet.
criminal background check and the credit check.
So we call that post-offer
Yeah.
applicant screening.
Yeah. Because we can't do that pre-offer.
Offer applicant.
Well, only for certain positions, and strangely, the department heads do not fall under that.
Including credit check and criminal background check for convictions as allowed by law after a conditional offer is provided.
Yes,
And then
You have to put all of that in, or can you just say criminal check,
and credit, and credit.
criminal credit checks?
out the four convictions as allowed by law after a conditional offer.
Yeah, you can take that.
Okay. And then please let us know if you need any reasonable accommodations. And then mention something around cost of living research and making sure the candidates are aware of this.
What did you have in there regarding schedule for the interviews? Did you have a bullet on that?
Proposed dates for in-person interview.
So commissioners, how do
Yeah.
we want to address that? Do we want to provide like several dates and see what date is in alignment with all four candidates? You know how we would do that for each other's schedule in the meeting, generally speaking.
Process.
Do we want to address that in the letter?
yeah.
We should come up with the dates that were available for, and then maybe are we allowed to like doodle poll it or something? Like
Yeah,
that?
that I think we're allowed to do.
Okay.
Yeah, for the applicant,
Yeah, for the
or for the commissioners.
For their availability, I think we can do that. The only thing is, like we had a date in mind initially, Nisha checked on the availability that we don't have. There was no rooms available with it, and then I think management would like for us to use the county available facility if possible.
Right, sure.
Before we go for outside.
Outside, sure.
I believe Sarah was talking.
28th.
Yeah, September 20, yeah.
September 28th, so the liquor conference room wasn't available.
Not all day, it's partially available.
Oh, yeah, I think we had
Monday, and
Tuesday. I
I
had
did
Tuesday
email
for mine.
them, and planning yesterday
Tuesday,
to
Wednesday.
confirm if there are other dates, the first or last week of
29
September and first week of November. I just haven't heard back from them yet. One that I did have to location wise is the Akakū Community Center has breakout, has rooms there as well. That's like an option.
So I just wanted to see if the internet is. I don't block it after.
So it'd be interesting because if there's a breakout room, that would allow us to have like a kind of a sequestered area and be able to go into another room.
There's the liquor conference, and then there's another conference somewhere else in the building that I've seen somebody else use it.
The real property tax training room we've used as kind of like an overflow room for liquor commission before. So they have those two rooms in that D&B complex.
Yeah.
Okay,
Oh,
What the B complex?
Yeah, that's where liquor commission comes.
Oh.
Oh,
Yeah,
that's a nice building.
It's nice.
it is.
It has good audio.
Yeah, so it's I mean, the way it's
Thank
would
you.
be like ideal, because I think right at the fire chief, they had their interview, or police commission, they have meet there, so I think the meeting. Police chief interviews were actually done.
And I think they have security now too.
Just in case.
There's been some incidents.
so based on all of that, I don't think we want to offer them dates. I think we want to pick a date and say, this is the date.
Yeah, because it would be like.
Your
I said,
schedules are
hours
so
availability.
Yeah.
That's just the location thing, right? We need to nail down that location.
That's
Yeah,
what's
For me, I'm
ideal,
still
yeah.
a wild card,
Okay.
right? So I might have to, I might prefer to be in person, but depending if I get
Sure.
sent somewhere.
Okay, so the liquor conference room you said is not available all day. That
The 28th.
the 20, but
I just don't, I haven't checked the other dates yet.
Oh, the
for
29th or the 30th.
So what day was the
The
committee?
original was the 20th.
Oh, 28th.
Yeah.
Oh, I didn't have that. What was that, all day?
I had that for some reason.
I had 29 and 30.
Me too.
So, but
Oh, I'm
28.
sorry, I had 29th, that's right.
Okay, 29, 30. Let me double check my.
I mean,
I had 29th, 8 a.m. to 4:30 p.m.
Yeah.
And then 9:30, 10:30 a.m. to 4:30 p.m. I don't know why.
There's two options.
because the room I thought, or somebody,
Not available for a certain time.
okay, I don't know, but I
know
had that
our
too.
conference room.
Yeah, does she
Yeah.
reserve it? Oh, I think I have your number.
Ah,
I am on the.
do have the
note of
conference
the
room.
liquor
Our
board
DPS
secretary.
conference room is held for the 29th,
I'll call her.
8 to 4:30, and then
Yeah, so if you can check on the
30th
29 and 30.
from
29th.
10:30.
Oh, okay,
But then
That's
we
right,
didn't
that
have,
was-
we didn't have a room to sequester in our
Right.
conference room. So we were checking the other.
okay, that's why we had those dates, the 29th. Was
So Miss Christie checking that?
with DPS.
If they're available today.
Okay,
Great, let's check on that. And by the way, when did we start having security here? I got approached by a security guard today when I came up.
Oh, yeah, and
I didn't realize that.
in the front of the county building.
Yeah.
oh, he went up to you?
Yeah, he just came by. I was waiting for someone and he came in to check me out and see what I was doing there.
I got side eye when I walked in. Good.
Good old Blake on the job.
Oh, two, and then.
So it's still those 2 dates?
The 29th and 30th.
We're just checking for we're gonna finalize one.
Right, okay, so yeah.
Let me see this here.
Yes. Oh, okay.
Not listen, that's from the series.
Sorry.
I just cannot listen as well.
Okay, so she has it. Okay, so you guys have it from 7:45 to 2 right now, on the 29th.
I guess all of the candidates have public experience. I just wondered
How long are they? Yeah,
if the open public interview process is clear enough for us. And none of the 4 or even 6, yeah. They all had public personnel, public administration experience and HR experience.
Some
So
degree.
it should be clear. I guess, is it clear enough to say open public interview process?
so we can explain in that, I mean, it's not gonna be just one.
Okay, you'll add a little more, okay, to, yeah. I like.
When you,
This
the
is-
date and location, this will be an open public interview.
Maybe just an open meeting.
Meeting open to the public, there you go.
Okay, thank you.
That's a good one. Okay, all right, thank you.
So what, Yukari, what do we need to do with this list? Do we want G to do, to
Okay.
read it back to us and then we can do a motion?
Oh,
Approve this content
Okay,
as, and then if you can maybe go through the list of contents one more time, or maybe she can even make the motion to,
Okay,
for the commission to approve the list of content, the cover letter to the interviewees, and then here's the list.
okay.
Yeah.
We're not putting in the proposed date for now then, correct?
We will identify a proposed date. It's not necessary
For
this is
this.
just the content.
you'll work on that.
Yukari on that?
Yes.
Okay.
Okay, so I motion to include the following bullet points in the candidate cover letter that I will help draft. In-person interview being required, proposed dates for the in-person interview being put into there. Statement of consideration of privacy, that it's an open and public interview process to address sequestering of the candidates during that interview process, including the venue, check-in, polling numbers, the number of candidates, having accommodations with snacks, hydration, restrooms, et cetera, with the cell phone policies. And then also having in there that we will observe any handling of any emergencies if something arises. and not utilizing the cell phone to the full extent possible during the sequestering process, addressing the reference questionnaire with instructions provided, providing leaders with the leader's intent prompt and respective due dates and how it should be submitted back with instructions. An FYI that we will be doing pre-offer applicant screening, previous employer reference checks, education verification, employment verification, post-offer applicant screening, including credit checks, criminal background checks, and asking them to let us know if they need any reasonable accommodations, as well as a section that mentions the cost of living research and making sure that the candidates are aware of this as needed.
Can I add one more thing to consideration for a bullet? Do we need to say anything else about electronic equipment like computers or tablets besides cell phones? So just electronic devices? Can we just say electronic devices?
Mhm.
So that way we can encompass everything.
Can we just say that during sequestering, they should not access the public broadcast of the interviews. That way, they can still use their laptop if they need to work or their cell phone, but as long as they agree to not log into the hearing.
Yeah, that's fine. That's Joe and
It's up to you guys. I mean, like, my texts come through, so it just depends on how.
On my computer, all my texts come right through.
Yeah.
yeah,
So we just have to be aware of that.
like I guess maybe the concern is that even if they're not logged in, they might have someone watching it and text it to them, you know.
That'll happen on the.
These
phone,
are
of
people
course.
that are upright, straightforward, am I correct?
Hopefully.
Oh. Okay,
Two is like no internet or something. I don't know, you can work on a document.
how long would you live like that, G?
I actually love it. I was
Requested internet.
gone for an entire week in the woods backpacking, so that's my favorite place to be. But yeah.
Unless they,
I know, right, please.
unless they,
Please.
me, I was logged in off my phone, just off my cell service. So I mean, this is just for our discussion. What do we want to do? It's just electronic devices. If we put it in there, we can amend it to be whatever that it needs to be. It's just the scope of what the letter's going to cover, right?
Yeah.
And if they know in advance, they can maybe bring hard copies of work they can work on, you know, and it doesn't, non-productive, right?
Right.
So just maybe it's cell phones and or electronic devices. We'll address that.
Mhm.
We can figure that out.
And so we would have to have a proctor in the room with them?
I would think so if you wanna.
Probably,
Yes.
Well, you know.
I don't know who that could be.
Would there be somebody from DPS?
No, probably I wanna try to avoid DPS first as much as possible. I mean, are you gonna be able to do the
Priya?
in-person meeting? No, yeah, or I'm gonna maybe switch back.
What did you find out about the potential date?
Oh, they are free. Liquor conference room is not free September 29th, but it is open September 30th from 2 to 4.
That sounds like, what do you think?
Yes.
For that sequestering room though, I have to call real
Oh.
property. Do you want me to do that now?
Oh, yeah, because we need both, right?
Yeah. Okay.
To make it work.
Okay.
Okay, so
Well, thank you.
let's move forward on the motion then.
Yes.
30th.
Yes,
Okay, I'm gonna call-
30th, not 29th.
No, 30th, and I'm gonna call real property.
Sarah was, right? Last time when we set those dates, right?
Yes, 30th. Is it start at 10:30 or what time does it start?
It's gonna start at 8 now.
Okay.
2 to 4 is when the room.
Sorry. Okay, yep, I'll move my finance meeting.
Yeah, I have an appointment too.
Yeah.
It's 7:30. Yeah, I'm not gonna make it.
So we can unblock the 29th if this.
Well, let's wait, because
So do we
We
have
need
to
two
have to
rooms,
read
yeah.
the bullets again, Yukari, or can we just because we added electronic to what she already previously said, can we make a motion to
You
approve?
can just make a motion.
Okay.
well, she was in the middle of the motion.
Yeah, that was my motion. I don't want to read it again though.
Okay.
Need a second?
second,
Thank you.
It's been moved by Commissioner Lee and seconded by Commissioner Suzuki that we approve the bullet list as presented. All those in favor say aye. Any opposed? Nay. No, the motion carries. Okay. Do we need to review the leader's intent statement? Or is that-
help get it out. Friday?
Yeah, as long as we have the dates, I can do.
Yeah.
I can do this.
Oh, nice, thank you.
Next, we'll look at the leader's intent statement, any verification or any modification needed there. We're now entertaining a motion to accept the leader's intent statement as presented.
Have you had conflict? I move to approve as drafted.
Is there a second?
Second.
Any discussion? Okay, all those in favor say aye. Any opposed? Seeing none, the motion carries.
Good job, Greg.
Hey, I found something didn't need edits for once. You got good eyes though.
I thought about it. I had to do regulatory filings, and it's that, you know, the thing I told you about,
Detail.
about credibility. So if you're sloppy, your work isn't, it's gonna be questioned more, and it's already questioned, right? So that's why I'm very detail
That's good.
oriented, besides the finance background.
I like passing Sharon's test. Makes me feel better about myself.
It's a very high bar, Greg. It's a very high bar.
I make mistakes, so you know.
No. No.
He's pretty detail
Oh, no,
oriented.
he
Oh my
is.
gosh.
I'm
But
so
you have to
impressed.
be,
Yeah.
it's compliance, see, right?
Okay,
What else do
what else do we need to review here? We've got the potential, we're waiting for the confirmation on the sequester room.
Comms. So can we, I know that we had our letter, but the last thing I have on my list here is we have the info letter. Would be the discussion with Corp Counsel on recommended comms of, for everything that we're doing here. Is it, you think you mentioned that between Corp Counsel and reaching out to the Office of Management, we would try to reignite that assistance similar to what we did with the job announcement and all of our other meetings that we had when we had the TIG. So we would try to reestablish those lines of communication, such as the email, et cetera. And just for everybody here, you know, I think, and Sharon and I really didn't bring this up when we give our report, but you know, Priya's organization of all of the details with the redactions as well as non-redacted information, and the way that she organized that for us was exceptional.
Mhm.
It gave us an opportunity
Absolutely.
to actually stay organized. So I think that participation from management was critical,
Yes.
and it kept all the communications simple. We had a single POC. We had our direct initial conversations legally with Yukari, with the assistance of Christy, and that was clean. And so if we all kind of agree with that same process, then I think we try to move that same thing forward. That reasonable, everybody?
Yeah.
So, but we don't know the comms right now. We have to ask, right? Is there anything else with comms that we need to worry about? Because you said we're leaving DPS out of it as much as we can. So back to this group view.
You know that you folks are probably want the email, the director hiring email to send out the cover letter. So she just wants to know what needs to be in that email, and then to have it,
Sure.
have all the documents ready to be sent out. So once we can work on it with Commissioner Lee to get that finalized cover letter and then all the documents in place, I think we can ask Priya to just use that email to send.
Is it not just one attachment though, the leader's intent? Because now,
Oh, okay, yeah.
because now we're gonna ask them for references, and we're gonna need assistance from Department of Management to send out the form for the references to complete and return, right?
Right.
So that's gonna need additional coordination, right?
So I think we also need to set a date that we want those references back.
By, right,
Right, and the leader's intent.
right. So if you
Yeah, we
have.
We have that in the job announcement generally, but we could reestablish those dates. They were all subject to change.
Right, right.
The
And then
RPT room is available and they're holding it. So we have.
September 30th. Oh, great.
And our time is 8 to 4.
8 to 4.
We come in early, make sure we're set up.
So
Begin
we need
interviews
to
at
go in.
9.
Oh, okay.
This is at the DMV.
Center, DMV. It's
Oh,
upstairs.
yeah.
You guys go downstairs. Yeah.
And then on the
Yeah,
second
okay,
floor?
yeah.
Okay.
Okay.
And then on
So we'll
comms,
meet at 8 and the first interview maybe at,
We can meet before, but we scheduled the first interview at 9, so we're sure that we got all our ducks in a row.
okay, so we can get organized. Good idea.
The potential date I have for candidates to submit everything was September 18th. That's what we had discussed at the last.
that's a reasonable amount of time. Give it at least a
If
week.
it gets sent out on
Friday
Friday.
gets sent out on
Yeah.
Friday.
Right, I think that's what I had to do.
So then we have time
Consistent
to,
with our
oh, good.
3 weeks, basically.
announcement too.
So then we would
And it
need
gives you all.
Department of Management to combine it and
And so.
give it to us, right?
But what about reference?
We also had to set a date for them to send us the
Yeah.
names of their references. So they shouldn't need more than a week for that, right?
Like 2 weeks, I think is like plenty,
We should, you
Okay,
maybe
so-
even one.
Maybe 10 days, because if
Yeah.
it goes out on Friday,
Then maybe September 9th, because that's the
Monday.
week and a half.
would that work?
we could
Or
get the-
September
So on the
7th.
Friday, they're gonna have to send back to us their
Right,
reference
right.
contacts, and then
Can we
someone
just,
is going to have to.
Send the forms
that-
to the
and that might
references,
Not happen till the next week.
right?
no later than, so that way if someone's on it and they send it back quick, we can just punt that off. Or as soon as they return receipt, then we can send that to their
Yeah.
references. So that it won't all be piling up and waiting for a launch date. As soon as they respond back, we can send it. It's only for 4 people, so it shouldn't be too bad, yeah.
is 4 or 3?
4,
Oh, sorry, it's a 3 or something.
No, 4
Oh,
applicants.
sorry.
4
Three
applicants,
reference-
3
references,
professional
yeah, sorry.
references,
Okay.
yeah.
And then on comms, the only piece I was gonna make, if we can make a note for Priya, would be the last time there was the press release considerations. I know that had to do with the director retiring, but in this particular instance, if there's any press release that the county would normally plan for based upon the announcement of anything with the process or a plan, so that when we make that conditional offer to final offer, how we're gonna communicate that back to Office of Management to address the comps part. Is that something the county's gonna release? Because we can make the offer, they can play catch up, of course, but I think they appreciated,
When the person accepts the offer, you could do the press release announcing the new director.
so they would know, they would just know who to send. There's coordination with sending that to whoever in comms again. So
Only
they
at the
didn't want to,
end,
remember
though.
last time we didn't want to put out the announcement until the press release went out to acknowledge the director's retirement. There's that little bit of coordination piece there. I don't see that being a factor. I'm just asking you, is there any comms piece there that we, as long as they have a heads up, if there is something, then they can, whatever
Yeah.
we need to do.
I think that Priya could give comms a heads up
Right,
that you're
yeah.
planning to make an appointment right in your October meeting. That would.
I guess so, we would,
Your October,
sure,
um,
because we would make a selection on the 30th.
you would finish your.
That would
interviews
be
the week
good.
Before, and then you'd have 1 week to think about it, I guess, and then at the October 7th meeting, make your selection and extend the offer.
Okay, so we would be at an agenda item on the 7th. We've discussed there and determine. and make
Oh,
the
the
announcement
selection.
in that meeting.
And
And then who puts out the press release? Do we do, does somebody's,
That's the one he's talking about, we work with communications.
okay. So communication is out of the mayor's office?
then Chair, lastly, with the discussion of the group, we know that we have interview questions that we need to, and we have to, well, two things that we have outstanding is the interview questions and the qualities of the as we read earlier, the scientific expertise of this particular individual. We were gonna memorialize our interview questions and those characteristics of the qualities of the candidate that we were looking to hire, in doing that in advance of the interview. So the question to the commission is to decide at what particular meeting would we want to have that work performed so that we could consider it as a commission and then vote on that.
Could that be part of the executive session or does it have to be public? I guess that,
I mean, I think to
because
the,
I think that related to selection.
yeah, I'm seeking legal advice about the appropriateness of your questions and the appropriateness of your evaluation criteria under HRS. That can be done in the executive session.
We just have to pick a meeting date that we want to be able to have all of our pala together, and ideas to consider those items. In
Okay.
what meeting do we want to do that?
Peter, have you received the confirmation regarding our hearing next week? So he hasn't submitted any of his speakers yet. That's unfortunate. If we knew he wasn't coming, then we could go ahead and do executive session that day.
What time is your hearing set for?
10:45.
Oh, okay.
What day?
September 2nd.
Yeah, let me just write it down.
Well, so we set another date for the executive session.
Yeah. Stakeholder engagement.
Um,
Yeah,
Our numbers out there.
last time about a potential special meeting between 9:02
Yes.
and 9:25 to discuss interview questions and maybe have the former director come in and speak.
Oh, that's a good, yeah, I was
Oh.
gonna bring that up.
I did
Oh.
ask her for availability. I know she has to try to find the right, hold on, let me pull it up. She is free on the 2nd, if, I don't know if you want to fit that in, but she's available the 3rd to the 10th and the 24th and 25th.
We try to set that executive session for the 9th. I mean, I'm sorry, for September
Special meeting.
2nd, September 2nd, after the hearing, after. our hearing.
Oh,
Extend
yeah,
it, yeah.
and just,
That would be
we're
nice.
already
We're there.
convened as long as you're available.
For some work, that'd be perfect, Chair.
Okay.
Mhm.
So how about,
Yeah, in a second.
because we have to block off
The
that time
second
for the
would be-
hearing. So we can set the executive session for 1. And if we don't have the hearing,
Yeah, we
We can
can
move
just,
it-
yeah,
push it up.
move it up.
No, you
I
can't
don't
move it
know
up
if you
here.
can-
Yeah.
Oh.
If you
Oh,
have it set for
okay.
1 o'clock, you have to have it at 1 o'clock.
Okay.
But-
for an executive session,
So what you can do.
Executive
though-
session?
For exec?
Yeah, you
No,
can have
because
it on the full agenda and
Yeah.
recess it
Recess it and then come back from the recess
at 1.
at 1 or earlier.
in an executive session.
Oh, no, you,
No, so see, you wouldn't necessarily have like a separate meeting agenda for the exec session. You would have it, you could have it in the open session meeting and say you're gonna talk about this topic. And then it's gonna say that the commission may convene this, discuss this matter within exec session pursuant to HRS, whatever.
Okay,
And then you guys, somebody will make a motion to go into exec session at that time. So everything can be on that same meeting
Oh,
agenda
yeah.
for the second.
regular,
And then you just recess the regular meeting at whatever time, 10:45, and then do your hearing, come back, and then say, okay, now we're back in regular session.
We just gotta move it recess this time.
yeah.
So, yeah.
The motion shouldn't be to adjourn, it should be to
So
recess.
you don't have to take it. Yeah.
We have to remember that.
But so chair can just recess the meeting
Okay.
right before.
So what happens if the hearing doesn't get, if we don't have the hearing, we can just recess?
You don't even have to.
I mean, we can reconvene
So, but you don't even have to recess.
because it's canceled or whatever, or continued or something. Okay,
Then you just go.
We will have a unitary meeting scheduled before the hearing anyway, right? So
oh,
we'll
right, we have to
recess for
do
the
that,
unitary
yeah,
meeting.
sure.
Right. If there's a, you
Okay.
just recess it and then come back after the.
But when we come back again, it won't be an executive session, it'll be an open session, right? We're just talking about.
Then move to-
to
Go
pull-
in.
Okay, very good, thank you.
Okay, good.
So
All right.
one thing that,
So
that
we
Sharon,
just block off the,
To say till 2
the second,
2 or 3 o'clock.
yeah. Oh,
And
is the
have
room
time in that day,
available?
So if we just have to adjourn by 3 o'clock.
By 3, okay, that's
I would
good.
definitely hope we're done by 3 o'clock.
so Chair, I
Yeah.
had, one other item that for us to consider that Sharon reminded me of that I forgot about, is we originally, when we convened as a commission prior to the forming of the TIG,
Recess.
Okay.
we talked about stakeholder interest, involvement, excuse me. It was an important part of our, process. We had, Sharon and I, when we had the TIG formed, this is part of our kind of the report, but we had worked with Christy and Yukari and Priya to look at the department demographics in terms of their size, and also kind of narrow down our ability for us to select certain departments off of a list. There's an email that was provided in your exhibits to you guys. And so the question I have for the commission now is like, how would we like to move forward with that transparent process for stakeholder involvement? We know that we have open testimony at all of our meetings and special
Mhm.
meetings. That's boxed on. So any department head or other could participate, but we haven't expressly requested that type of feedback. The last time that was done, we know, was with the survey that was conducted via DPS and Office of Management. So my question is we want to have a quick discussion on that, how we'd like to move forward. Again, this is a quick statement of review. Before our plan, Sharon's and my plan was to choose numbers out of a hat in front of Yukari, identify that list that we had, and then try to go meet with those department heads to ask them a series of questions. And it was originally simply, what are your challenges with the HR system, and what would you like to see in terms of the next leader of the Department of Personnel Services? Now, if we don't want to do that by physically going and scheduling meetings, and that gets more clumsy now that our TIG is dissolved. And so maybe there's an opportunity for us to put something out to still select those departments as Yukari provided us in our correspondence randomly, and then request that they provide either written or testimony to the commission at some meeting date prior to our conducting interviews of candidates. That would just be something for us to kind of talk about. Any thoughts?
And a point on stakeholder engagement, you're talking about departments, but the people that are going to be most directly impacted by the selection are the DPS staff. So I think they're an important stakeholder to consider as well, right?
Okay.
Just want to throw that out there for you.
No, that's, you're right. Because that's the challenge of
I
this position
feel
is
that.
balancing everything.
And I'm sure they all feel some anxiety just having this, undecided for.
So is that an opportunity for us to have like a special meeting where really we're giving people some good notice to be able to provide testimony on their thoughts, and we just we're good listeners.
Yeah, you guys could send that out to the departments and the
Yeah,
staff
love
if they
that.
want to submit written or oral testimony.
Oh,
They don't necessarily have to give the departments, they just have like the.
just open it up to
Yeah.
all.
Right.
Council members, and their stakeholders.
I think a huge part of it, you want to kind
We can kind of abandon the selection part.
Okay, yeah.
Like that, we're open meeting where all you're doing is taking testimony for everyone, then you just house it a day. And then.
We're gonna be like in council. There until 2 a.m. So you might be.
So I think so.
You guys can be in.
There you go.
So do we want to
Oh, okay, that might be. a good thing
identify
to do
a date
remotely
for
then.
that, a special meeting, or what is the thoughts of the committee?
We should do that today. We're going to do that today.
Is that
Is that
the one
yes?
you want to decide on the interview questions and all of
I think we're
that?
doing that in a second,
That-
right?
No.
We're doing that in the second.
Wait a second.
That's the second.
This would be specific to get stakeholder input,
Yeah.
right?
But the stakeholder input, what would that mean then? Like, if
Oh.
you're already picking your interview questions, like if the stakeholders are saying, this is so important to us, like, wouldn't you want to ask about that in the interview perhaps?
I think what we have though is kind of covers a lot of it. I think it's more about which ones we prioritize more as heavier weighted.
I think we're gonna have, so that's a good point. So to Kirsty's point, like, are we prohibited then from, we know we're gonna have follow-up questions, and we're gonna have questions when they submit their references and their leader's intent. So nothing prevents us from having, say, questions that we come to the interview with, or is it based upon this testimony? We're just memorializing our organized group of questions that we know we're gonna ask. It doesn't prohibit us
Yeah,
from,
very good
adding
point.
more.
The follow-up questions on the
Yeah.
individual person, right?
no, we don't have to ask all of them.
And we don't have to ask every person the same questions either. Right? If certain things come up.
It sounded like you guys were gonna have a core set of questions you wanted
We
to
would
ask.
ask all.
Then you're gonna ask questions in response to their presentation, right? So that's very person to person.
And then each person, you wouldn't necessarily need to come up with a set of questions for that because you guys are working on it on your own.
Yeah.
And we can run it by you, right? Before the interview, right?
Yeah, and that's
The follow-up questions.
individually reach out to us.
Yeah.
Hey, here are some follow-up questions I have.
Is that okay?
Is that
Right.
okay? Yeah.
So stakeholders too would also be our labor organizations would be a good one. So how do we want to communicate that? And who do we communicate it through? Would it still be Office of Management, or do we need to build that list, or?
I mean.
Well,
if it's-
actually, we have a list from our Align HR project of all of the same stakeholders. So we could maybe just use that, you know,
And
because
then add the union.
the unions are in there as stakeholders.
Okay.
Okay.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, for Align HR.
Okay, perfect. That's the program. Sorry.
Big project we're
Yeah.
working on.
Management, what is it? What is it called? An audit?
It's
No,
not-
it's not an audit.
It's a.
It's a consultant.
And.
No, but that's
good.
good because it's the same,
Same people.
this person is gonna help lead.
Perfect.
All right,
Thank you.
Thank you for stopping by.
provide your testimony.
Thank you.
So I guess we need to then kind of get your availability.
I know what the was about.
Yeah.
I don't know.
You
know better.
Yeah, you know better.
Yeah, so-
Yes.
Ask a quick question too. Sorry, we might be backtracking a little bit, but I want to make sure I get the candidate letter to you ASAP. So are we allowed, I feel like a week to get the 3 references emailed back is plenty of time.
Yep.
So to me, that's September 4th.
Okay.
And then we can, like we talked about, as we receive them, we can get the reference questions pushed out.
Okay.
Does that seem reasonable?
Yes.
And then the remaining stuff, though, we want.
But we want the responses by a certain time, right?
Right.
Later than.
No later than
Right, but
from
the,
the references.
yes, so that was my question. Like, do you want everything back then by the 18th, including references then as well as their leader's intent statement and everything else, or is that too far down the line, or when do we want to have that part by?
I think 18th is reasonable.
The 18th is
Yeah,
reasonable.
because we're gonna get everything electronically from
Okay.
Can
Department
be
of
sooner, but
Management.
not
Yeah,
later
that
than
works.
18th.
Yeah,
Yeah, no later
Okay.
than.
So right now I have, this is what we have on by 28th of this week. I'll be sending out that letter. September 4th is a due date for the list of the preferences from the candidates. September 18th is a due date for leadership intent piece and then the responses from the reference questionnaire. The September 30th is the interview date. October 7th is a selection. And then outside that, you have September 2nd meeting, you'll be going over the interview questions. It's the expertise basis, I guess, a scientific expertise and whatever for that. Decide on the qualifications of candidates.
Oh, that's on the second, right?
Yeah, and then so the other one is the stakeholder
Thank you.
outreach testimonies. Do you want to set either you can do it either way, I guess. You can just do an outreach saying that, hey, we're having the interview on the 30th. Can you, if anyone, they just provide testimony on the qualities of that what we should be looking for in the next director. Please provide it by, and then and do it like that, like a
Written only,
written only, or
or what?
or if you want to set a meeting specifically to get testimony and then they
Could
receive
be super
testimony,
lengthy.
written testimony as well. It's up to you guys how you want to do it. That's the 2 ways you can do.
So I guess to what Yukari's suggesting that we just have to be okay with the transparency piece. Like if we receive it in writing, it's in writing, we get to read it, and it's amongst us, nobody gets to really hear. Unless we put that in the public record for them anybody can look at what those responses were. If they testify, then everybody gets to.
Well, I mean, I would frame it as like a testimony
Opportunities.
I would still like have it as part of one of the meeting dates. Either your
And
interview
it's just
date
a
that I
meeting.
said is also a meeting, right? So they can
Okay.
have a testimony before that meeting date as well, the 30th.
So they could provide written testimony too before a certain date. So they could be that one meeting, but also accommodate the fact that if they want to put something in writing and submit it before a certain date.
Well,
we can look at that too.
so to have testimony, you can receive testimony up till the day of the meeting, written or not. So anytime.
And
really,
at the
so-
meeting
at
then,
the meeting,
right?
yeah. So you might be getting testimony on the day of, written or otherwise, right?
but at a certain time, right? Not like mid-interview or whatever.
No, we would ask for the, oh, and
But
then,
it could lengthen the whole thing.
Yeah.
And to me,
Yeah.
the focus to me needs to be on our interview of the candidate. Maybe, I mean, if we want that
Could we
type of open
pause that
testimony.
Till the end?
I think we talked about that last time. We were talking about when testimony would be open during the interview day. When we
Right.
were gonna have testimony.
Select that where,
so we can't say at X point of the meeting. You can't limit it to that, cannot limit it to that. I did speak with an OYP representative about what if we have a, agenda item that just listed, instead of listing each person separately as like one item.
Oh,
And then can we do public testimony as a one all together item? The concern that she had was that, then you might run into the issue if you're gonna go into exec session for
one
one
person.
person or no, and then the basis of going to exec session might be different for each person, so that's why she felt more comfortable having the kind
Individual
of separate-
names.
Yeah, as a separate agenda item, which means that you'll have to try and get question, if the public testimony as the agenda item comes up one at a time.
So, ugh,
But you can limit it, I think, to shorter and say we're stuck, we have a hard stop, whatever, and then if you.
because that could go on forever too.
Right,
And the stakeholder engaged or stakeholder outreach is more specific, not for a candidate. It's
Right.
testimony or input to what's important to them in the
Correct.
new leader, right?
However,
More,
we're gonna,
right?
and as is past experience during these, people will, if they happen to know who a candidate
Oh,
is.
yes, they're
Now, the
gonna,
good news is that we haven't released that, so there's other processes where that gets made known, like the top, so at
Yeah.
some point in time, people are gonna know who that is, and they
Right.
might want to testify. Like,
Sure.
we can't stop them from
No.
saying
It
that.
was posted.
yeah.
yeah.
But yeah, we have to do
I
that.
want Yukari to be the president of the United States. Like, that's great, but I mean,
Yeah, that's how I've seen it, when they did, I think, the county clerks, they did it at council. And then they had a lot of public testimony on the specific people.
No, I get that.
So,
Yeah,
that's
there's nowhere
good.
around
That can
that.
happen. It's just, I mean, it's, I've always been more interested in the integrity of that is please tell me what are the characteristics of the person that you want, and then trust that the process will identify and respect the characteristics you gave us versus, but sometimes people want to be there supportive of an
Sure.
issue.
Right,
Sure,
right,
of
right. You
course.
can't really
Yeah.
say, you
Can't say
can't
that.
say no to.
yeah, that's the
Yeah, that's the,
public process.
Yeah.
So for each
so is 8 to
individual,
4 enough time?
so for each individual, we'd allow time for the interview. So we conduct the interview and then answer any public testimony after each interview.
You could do it either before or
before or
after
after.
the agenda item is called.
I see.
I mean, that's kind of up to you.
Oh, and that was your point. If they were all in the same group, then we could take the testimony after. That was
That was the whole thing without going
Yeah.
to every time, but OIP didn't feel like.
Okay. Yeah, because it's exactly what you said. People might want to support.
So we
Therefore,
would
you're
announce that the
whatever.
first interviewee is Yukari. Is there any public testimony?
Great.
And that would be, we wouldn't have public testimony after.
Close it, yeah, close it at that point, and then it'll be done.
Or we're gonna interview Yukari and then open public testimony.
I think that.
And then we could establish hard stops.
I think you can. We've had, well.
We need 4 interviews between 8 and 4.
Yeah, well, and then.
And, you know,
At 9,
Right.
And then you'll have to factor in, you're gonna probably take breaks, there's a couple breaks here and there, probably if you want to. Or have a break, like 10-minute breaks.
So we should also limit the interview time
Oh, yeah.
too, right, for
Yeah.
us?
So testimony is usually 3 minutes. Can we,
I've had our chair limited to 2 minutes.
yeah, I'm thinking that might.
Okay, and it seems like we're, OIP is saying we should agenda each candidate and take I would prefer testimony after we do the interview, so we're
Clear.
clear on what we wanted to hear, and then we can hear the support or, additional support
Yeah,
or whatever, right?
Good point.
I
So they're
think,
not taking action.
because we don't have to, right? We don't have to take it before, right? We
You
can
don't
take it
have to.
after. Okay, That's fair, then, I mean, each candidate and public
Okay.
testimony after.
That we might wanna try and make it so that,
But they might, you still have to open up public testimony
In
at
the
the start of the meeting,
yeah.
so if people have things to do and they can't
Right.
hang around all day, they might just
Okay,
do it.
okay,
A lot of people
okay.
might do it.
yeah,
Sure.
so maybe we wanna start
I
your,
don't wanna have to wait.
Yeah,
yeah.
Yeah.
Meeting at 8:30 instead.
8:30,
Yeah.
I did first interview at 9.
Start the meeting, interview at 9, start the meeting at 8:30 and take testimony up until then. And then start your interview at 9. That might be,
So back to our stakeholders meeting then, that'd be totally separate, right?
yeah, you guys wanna do that as a separate thing then? And if so, do you wanna just have a written only thing that gets submitted to the. Like I can identify that September 30th meeting and then that before then. As a testimony thing, or you can set up a separate meeting just to hear the testimony of everyone. On that, and so we'll be looking at somewhere in September again. Later.
Yeah, so right now you have the 9/2 meeting on the books, right? And then the 9/30
for sure.
So what if we did a stakeholder meeting on 9/9?
For you guys to be-
They can either be in person or online.
I mean, you guys can all be online and then. Michelle will have to look for a physical location in case anybody wants to do it in person, but
9/9.
What time?
Is it possible for us to do 9/8?
Yeah.
It's a Tuesday though, I know, sorry.
I'm
I
open,
know.
I'm open on 9/8.
it doesn't have to be in the morning either.
I'm out of pocket the whole week.
Available.
And is this the meeting with maybe want the former director to speak to the day-to-day demands of the job? Or did you want to do it on the second?
I think we're thinking about the second, right?
Okay.
Yeah, with the exec
In
session.
the executive session.
Is it possible to,
Yeah.
You wouldn't die.
Okay, oh, that doesn't qualify.
can we move, can we?
Okay,
is it possible
sure.
to move that chair to the following week?
14th?
Like Monday, the 14th?
How's everybody's schedule look?
Forgive me
for
for that. I said I'm teaching all week from the 7th to the 11th.
Yeah, from 10 to 2 right now,
I
On
think
the-
we
on the
need more
14th.
time, yeah.
The 14th or
on the
the,
14th.
I mean, not
I have
necessarily.
some-
Necessarily, I don't know how
I'm
many people
sorry,
are
what?
gonna give
I'll
out
test them on. Yeah. Or,
And we can limit it then. I have something from 11 to 1.
15th?
15,
I can't. I'm
Okay.
busy till 11 that morning.
16th?
16, I'm open afternoon.
16, 17, 18th all work for me. Anytime.
I will not be able to staff it, but I'll have to ask my backup.
And 18th, I'm after.
I can stop it.
Yeah.
Wait, who's your backup?
Oh, it's for the water supplies, I think, manages my backup.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
Oh, for that meeting. Oh,
Of
okay.
course, the 17th, yeah,
Yeah.
and then 18th.
17th is,
18th would be, 17th I've been busy that day, but the 18th I'm open.
what about 16?
Small.
16 afternoon.
Okay. I could probably pull off the 16th. Kid has an early release, but
Oh, 18 afternoon also for me.
And then how much time are we allocating to this? What would we say?
our conference room is not available on the 18th.
16th?
What about the 16th?
16th?
16.
Talk about 2 hours, 2-hour testimony.
3 hours max.
Okay.
Okay,
Oh,
yeah, that would work for me on the 16th though.
1 to 4, how would that work for you, G?
yeah,
I can make
I
that
can
work.
make it work.
We can do remote, right?
Yes, yeah,
Oh, that makes it a lot easier.
yeah, I don't have to be.
1, 2, 4. Stakeholder engagement, yeah?
My son in the car?
Yeah.
Okay, just double check.
We're not going to any.
Okay.
Alright, so, yeah.
Okay, so we're saying 1 to 4 on the 16th.
Or stakeholder engagement, right?
Yes.
And I checked with Sarah, she can extend the next meeting
Oh,
for exec
good.
session, and I'll invite her to this meeting as well.
Okay,
That was for, that's on the 2nd.
Yes.
yeah, the second is extended meeting, right? for exec session.
Let me see, the conference room is open on the 16th. 1 to 4.
We've got the 2nd, the 16th, and the 30th on deck right now, right?
Yes.
Yes.
Okay.
Done on the 30th.
And then nobody's ever allowed to leave again.
Thank you all. This is so
We'll-
hugely
we'll tell
important.
our new-
So I appreciate
Oh, no.
You
it
have to give
is.
them
Oh
a
my
minimum,
goodness.
10 years. You can do that for 10 years.
Signed on the dotted line.
Okay, so can we,
confirm with Cynthia
Yes,
Rockville
please.
second,
Please.
if she's available?
Yes.
Is there a time we can give her? You know, she's. Do you think we could have her go at the start of the meeting at 9?
sure.
Can we get on the agenda in time?
I can amend the agenda today.
Yeah, she hasn't posted it.
Okay.
Okay, thank you.
Yeah, we should.
Okay, so,
By the way, did we ever get you support, I mean, tangent, on the AV support? I know that,
all right.
Sarah was inquire about that in terms of the speaker.
Getting their equipment.
Oh, for the conference room. We did switch out back to the old microphone and such, and it was a few settings that we just needed to adjust, and so far it's been okay.
Okay.
Or
For volume around the room,
Mhm.
okay, because that was difficult for calling in
Yeah.
and
Yeah, since
listening.
then we've gone back to the old.
Oh, okay, all right.
So
And I think for the stakeholders meeting, I'll be there in person. I think it might be just to make sure that there are no glitches with the guy chairing the meeting over the internet. It'd be better for me to be there in person. So I'll plan on being.
I'll try to, I just may have to leave a little bit early.
Can we recap the dates again? Sorry. So 9/2 is pretty much 9 to 3, right?
Like it was a marathon.
With extended meeting for exec session, yeah.
Yes.
And then we have
9:60, 1 to 4.
Real quick, can we do it with locations? So,
Oh, good point. Okay, hold on.
because I'm gonna
Let
have
me
the wrong.
start our, yeah,
So 9 to
regular
Six
meeting
floor. 6th floor, yes.
Yep.
plus,
9:16.
wait, plus extended
plus
session.
extended exec session to 3 p.m.
Yes, no later, right? Because the room's not available.
And again, if we don't have that hearing that day, and again, he hasn't responded to
They
Misha,
go through. and they-
which is, yeah.
9:60, 1 to 4, 6th floor.
Wait,
1 to
1
4,
to
6
4,
Yeah.
6 4, and that's the stakeholder engagement
Okay.
meeting.
And then 9:30, we have from 8 to 4 at the liquor conference center, the Akakū Service Center. That's your interview.
Can you
Interview.
say that one more time at the
The
liquor?
Kahului, yeah, liquor
Yeah.
conference room is the Akakū Service Center.
Second floor.
Yeah.
Liquor conference room.
Yes, and we have that 9 to 4. 8 or 8 to 4, sorry.
Okay,
Can be there at 8. And then you have your regular meeting on the 6th floor on the October 7th. And that is hopefully where you're going to decide on.
oh, so our decision isn't on the 30th, yeah.
Or
You can, I guess, if you want.
if you want.
Mine too.
Yeah, if you guys want to do it that same day.
Do a conditional offer of employment.
No, we would make our
We would make our
decision on
decision.
who we select to make
Okay.
the offer to.
And then
We
the
should
7th.
announce it on the 7th.
Yeah.
So depending on the timing, I guess, yeah.
What's
the
that,
30th.
just for the
Do
30th?
we
We let
need
the candidate know
to?
that. Announce it publicly.
Oh, here's my other-
37 Ho'okele Street.
Thank you.
Do we, if we make our commission selection, let's say on the 30th, are we able to inform the candidate? And then, but then publicly announce it on the 7th? How do we do that?
Oh, yeah.
What should we
What's
do?
the process or protocol?
Well, I mean, you guys have to offer it and then they'll have to accept it.
Oh, yeah. We would never announce it until it's accepted, right? And we do all the post offer checks and all that because it's still not official, right?
Right.
Okay,
So you can do it on the 30th after.
so we can decide as a commission then on the, and that,
That means I think you want to
Oh,
exec session.
yeah, can we go into exec session for that?
I think yes.
Or you guys can check, I
Um,
guess, and
Yeah, would you check in?
And then, because it could affect the agenda, yeah.
Yeah. Might be able to ask us about the legal questions, you know, with all of the considerations we have for the HRS. And then,
Oh, but the actual voting.
but the actual, like,
Voting has to be public.
and anything privacy related could be an executive. But I think
So if we have questions that could be privacy concerns, we can go into session, but we have to reconvene and like do a recess and reconvene. Or go to exec session and go back into public and
The action.
do our vote.
Because that deliberation is public as well.
Yeah,
So
okay.
I think the components about the HRS guidance, because remember we talked about all the nuances, we can go into exec session to talk about that.
Okay.
And then do we have to schedule anybody for the post offer background checks?
Yeah, we would need to kind of vet that out, I think, on
Who's gonna do that?
who's gonna do that.
Okay.
Because right now, I think in the county, it's only done for police, certain positions like parks, because positions that are gonna interact with children. So I don't know if you could use, we'll have to find out how they're doing it. I don't think DPS is like doing it. There's not a contract for like countywide to do those services. So we'd have to check with parks and police, maybe fire, how they're doing.
So we would need assistance again from management, right?
Yeah,
For someone to do it or coordinate for
right.
us, yeah.
Because usually those are done by third-party companies
Yeah,
in
got
my
it. Yeah,
experience, you
yeah,
know.
okay, okay.
So,
I don't know, I just went to HR.
right. I used to advise HR.
HR took care of it.
Is this conviction related
Yeah.
to the job duties?
Okay, so a lot of coordination though still, okay.
And so you've also mentioned a lot of support from Priya. Would it be from Priya?
Poor Priya.
I know,
Would it be appropriate to send a note to her director, expressing appreciation for her support through this process?
yeah.
I think she just asked
Someone else to help
if
with.
someone could help her.
Yeah, maybe some kimchi, you know. So nice.
Okay, so in terms of making the selection, does it have, we have to decide,
And for it to Michelle.
do we have to decide whether we're gonna make the decision that day or not? Probably before we agenda the item for that meeting, yeah?
For the 30th.
Mhm.
Are we able to, Yukari, if we have it agendized that we could deliberate to make a selection on a day, does anything prohibit us from recessing that meeting? And so we have the meeting on the 7th, right? Our regular meeting,
October 7th.
October 7th. So what would, if we got to a point where we were at some kind of an impasse where we just did not want to do that day for whatever reason, what would be the process for us to do it at a later date? Could we re-agendize it for the 7th, or do we recess that meeting and then do that as a continuation again on the 7th?
No, you can, just not do, you can have it on the agenda for the 7th, but you can not.
Do it on the
anything to it.
30th.
Yeah,
And then you can just defer it to the next meeting.
yeah.
So we put in the agenda for the 30th. If we get to it, we have it agendized. If we want to defer it, we can to the 7th.
You can just put it on the.
Also, it's flexible,
Yeah.
because depending on the time, right, how everything ends and the room is available, or you said the building closes at 4. So there's kind of a hard stop for us.
And, you know, as a group, some people might be ready, some people might not be. So you all have to
Yeah,
discuss
think
that.
about it, right.
I think we talked about originally too, before with the establishment of the TIG, is that we felt in our process, it's a good thing for us to think about, that we did not have to be unanimous on our selections. It would be our majority vote.
Yep.
So,
Standard voting.
yeah, standard voting. So, I think that also respects it respects everybody's individual review. If we have to push it, we can push it.
Mhm.
Hopefully we can get it done.
Yeah.
But maybe there's some other factor, like maybe we interview all the candidates and we need to regroup. You know, we don't want to force ourselves into a corner.
Sure. Okay. Okay, so we have flexibility.
And one thing I think we all know this, but just to put on the table, if it's not unanimous, once it's voted on, it's unanimous.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah,
Right? Once it's voted on, it's unanimous.
Well, that's the decision.
correct.
Fun.
Once the decision is made, implement the plan.
Yes.
The only times you get is during discussion, say, don't support the plan. All right, everybody vote. That's the plan. All right.
An email to send for the stakeholder. That's kind of what we did for our Align HR project for our stakeholder engagement. You know, we sent an email. I think you all received one.
Oh, yes.
Hi, we're doing this project, you know, please schedule an interview. In this case, it would be like we scheduled a special meeting on September 16th from 1 to 4. We welcome any feedback. You can provide written or oral testimony, something like that.
Do we have to say from 1 to 4, or can we just say beginning at 1? Because I don't want somebody to wait till 3:45 and see where you guys, right?
You know, I was just thinking that we can like email that
Oh,
out
yeah.
once we get the groups. So the groups they have listed here were the departments, DPS staff, council members, unions.
What,
And we said that that group already has that, right? The group that's working.
The Align HR,
Align.
we have the contact info for those stakeholder
Okay.
groups.
and then what type of, I know if I'm considering this for like other large, more, we'll say more common testimony, registration, it's in person, you have a list, and then that list is provided to the chair or clerk in that case, like for council. How do we want to get support for this to, if Misha's handling the meetings, what type of support does she need to register people that are in person or manage the
queue online.
queue online? How do we want
How
to
do
do
we do
that?
that?
How do they do the council meetings when they have like online and in person? I feel like they take the in person first and they do online.
Yeah, I think is it in your instructions? Like they usually will say testimony,
I would have to research the
I mean, in your
have any
agenda.
agenda, yeah.
It's in your
just-
guys' agenda.
It doesn't say specific to online or in person.
Oral is regular. Oral doesn't have that one exam meeting, are you?
It's just. It says in our agendas though, that oral testifiers are afforded 3 minutes to testify. Is that okay? So we're talking about doing 2, right?
It can be changed.
Can we change in your,
That's what the
This is in the
commission decided,
agenda.
right? Yeah.
like, after the
Mhm.
Oh,
location?
that's sign up, testify via video may sign up to testify by sending a direct message in the chat function.
But it doesn't have a message.
Yeah.
I think
Secretary.
when we,
As it says, testifiers by phone will be called by the chair after video testimony has concluded. Testifiers in person will be called after phone testimony has concluded. So you guys are doing, in this, how you guys have it is online testimony first, phone testimony second, and in person third.
but you can change that.
Yeah, you can change that to the other way around if you want to, or in person first and then online and then phone, or.
So the online, we'd line them up through the chat box. They in the chat box, top of the list, and we go down from there.
Yeah.
What about the people who are in person, whoever comes in first,
You
register?
have a signing sheet and then you go in order the signing sheet, yeah.
How do you just review phone though? How, I don't understand how that works.
Yeah, so you
Call
call
them
it
on the agenda.
Oh, because you're not on Teams.
Yeah.
Okay.
And how does that queue work?
Yeah, how do you know
And do they get their, no, how do they,
The number will go to, I think, Teams.
to Teams? Then they would.
Oh,
yeah,
they would
Yeah.
be part of the online?
Yeah.
list.
They just wouldn't have a video.
Call.
Right. Okay, okay. Oh, because it's a Teams meeting. What is the phone number?
So, and forgive me for my ignorance on the Teams part, but will it identify for the host of the meeting, like who queued in first and registered first, or will it?
I
Well,
don't
if she doesn't
know.
raise the hand function, it'll go in the order. So if I raise my hand first on the chat,
There you
it'll
go.
be one, and if G does that, that's the shall be number two on the. And there's a number 1, 2, 3, 4, and that's how.
Haven't done public testimony at a meeting yet.
Yeah,
So
right, you guys don't get.
I'm not so familiar with that process, but I can ask Andrea or even reach out to another board secretary.
For some reason, if you think that's going to be overwhelming to do everything and that request, maybe we talk to you, Kari, and then we try to get you some support.
Officer or.
Can help
Can
you.
help.
Yeah.
I want to reach maybe up to planning, because like they get a lot of public testimony at planning commission.
Okay.
Oh, yeah, so they'll probably someone who can think of that gets a lot of testimony.
Yeah.
Sure do.
Yeah.
So,
And I can bring my like to Misha if that's helpful, like for an extra set of eyes.
So again, if they raise their hand, it shows up in the chat.
Or in the, like over here, like, I don't know if Andrew is listening. Hey, Andrew, can you raise your hand? But it'll show up like next to her name.
Oh,
Yeah, like
yeah.
right there. And then she's number 1. And if somebody else raises their hand, they'll be number 2.
Oh, got it,
Yeah.
got it.
And that's how we know who's raised their hand first. Thanks, Andrea.
Thank you.
At least we know you're paying attention, Andrea.
I'm impressed.
Supposed to react with a smiley. Oh, she gave us high five.
So then the written testimony, though, it looks like by noon, 2 business days before the meeting, so that they can be distributed.
yeah,
I
I mean,
think
they can submit it
sometimes
all the way up to the
yeah.
meeting, but that won't guarantee
To
that
us.
you guys will have time to look at it, right?
For the
Yeah.
meeting.
Yeah.
Oh, we can still accept it after that.
Does public
Okay.
testimony have to be uploaded to Civic List as in like a meeting packet item or?
It's supposed to be a public item.
Yeah.
Okay. So then all that would get, yes.
Yeah.
And then if someone posts their testimony in the chat, that would be able to be,
No, they can't post in the chat.
Yeah, we would
The
have.
chat doesn't.
They can sign in the chat
They can sign up.
if they want to.
okay, so no posting in the chat. Because there was actually another pig I was on with the state, that was one way that you could present information that they would include, and they would put that out as public part of their public minutes. Like statements you made in the chat. So like if they're not, if we don't want to do that, it's fine, I understand. I just, then because if they submit some type of written testimony, then they could email it,
Right.
and then we would be able to have that subsequently printed out and provided to commissioners for further consideration.
Right.
As long as it was submitted in time.
Yeah.
Yeah. We just don't wanna, we don't encourage too much things in the chat because then it gets.
Hard to manage.
Yeah, yeah. And a lot of times it might be like participants like chatting to each other and making comments.
Yeah,
We don't wanna,
right.
Good.
yeah.
So then should it be fair, of course, the stuff we hear in person, electronically in person. And then if there's something that was submitted to the email, you could kind of gather all that up and then send it out to the commissioners.
If they're gonna email, would there be a
Are we using the higher?
limit?
I was thinking the hiring process email could be used to send out the stakeholder outreach email. Yeah,
But the testimony would come back to the normal.
Then it would be returned to that email as well.
Yeah.
If
I
it's
mean,
written.
it's-
Stakeholder
it's-
testimony.
so I think,
or do you want it to come from the Civil Service Commission email?
well, it's gonna be your email already. Yeah.
No, we
I have
have,
a civil service.
Yeah.
Oh, it might be better to come from that email then.
Yeah.
It's listed here in the first agenda.
Here.
For the
The
stakeholder.
stakeholder
Other testimony,
invitation, okay.
like if someone provided a written,
That would make sense. That would make sense, yeah.
the Civil Service Commission at County of co.maui.hius, that one, Nisha.
We're gonna kind of limit it to what, it's not specific to any person for that meeting, right? It's about what's important to them or,
Right.
right?
moving forward.
And we could anticipate, even in our regular meeting on the 2nd, that we might get testimony at that time.
Sure.
Similar.
Yeah, can always,
So
right?
that way we can start to be prepared for that and gather it. Especially if like Christy said, that information goes out to all the stakeholders, they might come back at us at different times in different ways.
Okay, I'm willing to draft that email, but can you guys provide me what again we were talking about? I said like kind of as part of the DPS director hiring process, the Civil Service Commission would like to offer or is accepting input on the qualities that are important to you, the qualities of the position. Or anyway, what are your ideas? And I can draft something. Did you have something before?
Yes. I was just gonna refer back to the,
Okay. let's make
Thank you.
that. Okay,
I've been working on the cover letter too.
you want to do this one too? You're so good. You're our HR specialist.
With the cover letter though, who does this come from? It's from the Civil Service Commission or chair or the pig or
No,
the.
I mean, it gets dissolved.
I'm sorry,
It's from hiring,
From the
hiring,
cover letter. I think it comes with a civil service commission.
just general Civil
Yeah,
Service
yeah.
Commission,
Generally,
because we're
Then
but it'll be emailed from,
from the director
Department,
hire,
yeah.
yeah.
so nobody will sign it. It'll just be sincerely the Civil Service Commission.
Usually
That's how you vote.
Signature.
oh,
That's why I was asking.
okay, chair, yeah,
Okay.
okay.
Let me know when it's ready.
So to Sharon's question, I'm just putting
Yeah,
this out
what
for
are
the,
your
putting
guys'
this out for the
ideas?
group.
Yeah,
So, and I'm gonna
What
tie
are-
this into something that Christy mentioned from planning. So in Title 19, and this has been a long time since I've done this, there's, if I remember correctly, there's like, it had to do with land use. There was like these 10 main items that when you were testifying before the commission, that you, if you're on an item, you were trying to testify consistently with those things that the commission was able to consider, right? So like passionate testimony or your personal information, while that was going to be received by the commission, it wasn't directly tied to kind of like, it was almost like a rubric, if you will.
yeah. limiting
And it limited the scope of like, okay, if you have a problem with this, an action that could be taken for consideration, here's your 10
Yes,
criteria,
not a grapes.
right? And so when that happened, what the commission was supposed to do was they had corp counsel, they had the current planning director, for example, and then they had the commissioners, and then as they received that, there was like, we'll say there's testimony quality objectives, and then the commission had an obligation to hear those pieces. They should have been well familiar with them, and then they'd hear that in the testimony, they could sort that out and then consider that in their deliberations or decisions, right? So why I'm bringing that up is that we have some pieces that we've already considered in our process that we could, to Sharon's point, we can add into this stakeholder thing. We could say, we could bring up everything
These are the types of information.
that we would like,
looking for.
yes.
In your
We have
testimony,
the
yeah.
MQ language, so she can say, please have your testimony address the following items, and we could put the MQ stuff in there. And then the other thing is you could just kind of juxtapose, Sharon. Oh my goodness. All right.
But we need to keep this under 3 minutes
Yes.
first. We don't want to make too many.
Like you can,
No, so it has to be within that. It's not
Yeah.
to bring up issues they had in the past or, I think that's why limiting the scope of the testimony, I think is important.
so we've got
Yeah,
framing it.
right.
Good agenda, maybe we need to, not so much maybe, and I mean, you can say like we wanna,
Wanted to
we're
align
focused
it.
on, yeah, whatever, but then the agenda, I guess when we're drafting the agenda, then we need to kind of make that narrow to those like public testimony, all the qualifications of the future duty.
Or
something like
qualities or
that.
something.
Yeah.
Something about, you can speak to education, their general experience, specialized experience. Obviously, we don't have substitutions, and in our preferred, we had, we could say something, if you want to, you could say something about these preferred leadership competencies.
Remember?
So we already have documented those pieces. So if you want to wordsmith it however you want, we already have that in the rubric.
I want somebody to review whatever I draft,
Yeah.
that's why.
But does that sound reasonable? Like it could.
Yeah, I like framing it because we don't want people to come just with all their past issues with DPS in general, right? We're looking for,
Looking.
yeah, forward looking. What are your expectations of a director of personnel services?
Yeah, what are the,
Qualities are you looking for?
Yeah, like what are the qualities that, yeah, or something like that. So it's not, yeah, you would like to see or something like that.
Including but not limited to. And then you just give them, because I think sometimes we know when people testify, they may not be as familiar with exactly what to say as we are. And so we're giving them a chance to see someone like, oh, I can talk about strategic forward-looking leadership. I know I can speak to that type of quality. We give them something to latch onto to talk about that we know is something we want to hear about, consider, because it was in our job posting.
What do you guys think?
Questions.
But then when we say that testimony will be limited to, say, 2 minutes or so many words,
No, I don't know. I think you can limit it the timing of oral testimony. Written testimony, you don't usually.
This was in the announcement? That wasn't in the announcement. That's in the rubric, right?
Well, in our announcement, it had the minimum, it had the preferred, and it has the preferred leadership. So you have that there.
for the.
Your minimum is the next thing.
Yeah, for this email,
the other
include
thing.
an agenda or.
Oh.
We can send them the link to the.
You can just kind of work
See what
it.
it is, right?
We want it to be sent out sooner
Oh,
than 6 days in advance, right?
That works on.
what, the stakeholder?
Yeah. You want it to be sent out sooner than when the
Yeah.
agenda is posted, right?
Right.
Okay, so maybe.
The agenda would have to align with whatever is in this email
The
though.
link to the CSC and then.
So I was just asking if it should include a link to that meeting, because not
Oh,
in the email.
Or just the website where you.
The link to the CSC website, maybe?
And then just say that please watch for the meeting information on this or the please.
Or and maybe include the link to the meeting.
so what do you
It's the
think?
same one you use all the time?
Yeah. Well, it's a different meeting,
ID every time.
yeah, every time, so
Yeah.
it would be specific to this meeting.
Yeah, so
Oh.
I would just put like the agenda with the meeting information will be up posted or by if whatever such and log, please log on. Please like go to our website for.
I mean, theoretically, you could use the MQs in these 3 sections and just say any of the following you can base your testimony off of.
Is that what we would tell?
I mean,
I just wanted your guys' input. I'll
Yeah,
draft the actual wording, but I was trying, I kind of like that we're limiting it to qualities, or should I give the examples like from the MQs, preferred leadership competencies and preferred qualifications?
do we want to list all the bullets that were in the job announcement for their consideration?
It's redundant, yeah. Maybe
Let's talk about
maybe
it.
leadership competencies?
Yeah, is there
Because-
one thing that you want, is there anything out of there in the MQs maybe that you want to hear more about from the stakeholders, and then maybe we can highlight, we can talk about anything else, but like.
Yeah, I guess for me, this is
How can we frame
this
it?
is a job that is hard to maybe understand from the outside. So hearing from people on the inside to give you commissioner's perspective, I think would be
It's also
helpful, right?
helpful,
So
yeah.
you can understand, because, I worked here 9 years and I still like learn things that DPS does that I wasn't aware of. So, it's kind of complex, right?
Right.
And to get your understanding more of, I think, the day-to-day operational needs, right?
So if we, what Chrissy's saying, what Sharon's alluding to, like if we have 3 main sections, right? So we don't have to put the bullets. We can just say,
Right.
we can say, minimum qualifications, preferred leadership competencies, and preferred qualifications. Or minimum or preferred qualifications and leadership competencies. You can just say that. That's the main,
So what did you say? What
because
was
we
the
got
last
minimum
one?
qualifications and then we had preferred qualifications. So we can say minimum and preferred qualifications and preferred leadership competencies. You can testify on. Those are just.
I think it
leave it
might be
open.
more basic from, like you're saying, from staff, what their expectations are, what qualities they want to see in a director versus say like a department head who may have not been so happy, but they need to frame it in a way of what are they looking for then? What
Right.
qualities are you looking for?
Which is why someone that rolls over and says yes.
Yeah, I know. I mean, you know,
And are we allowed to like pause them and redirect them towards that stuff, or is it just something that we have to keep reiterating? Because what if somebody just
goes off on
rabbit
something,
hole,
yeah.
Yeah.
Minutes.
That's the time limit.
Okay.
You know, if you're talking about something totally unrelated.
Yeah,
This is
it's
the-
what qualities, like,
How is this related to the
okay.
agenda?
This would be our general guide that we're looking at, like, okay,
right,
We're
right, because
attaching- we're
I think
attaching
this might be
this.
too
Yeah.
technical
For them to be like.
for the audience we're addressing,
Yeah.
right? So maybe just general, what qualities would you like to see in the next?
Yeah,
Or what qualities would like the commission to consider
Oh, okay,
while
good.
choosing? it?
Okay, good.
when choosing a new director. Yeah.
Yeah,
To consider. Okay,
Well
good. That,
said.
I like that
no thing I did right today.
when selecting.
This is more is gonna happen on.
All right, thank you. That'll be shorter than, yeah.
Think about, I do want to understand like in anything the committee could consider regarding the day-to-day demands of this job. Do you want to hear anything about that?
I think they would if they're staff. But
They
then
want us
the
to consider.
directors have a different perspective, right?
Oh, yeah, that's what I'm saying, like, you're gonna get very different perspectives from different stakeholders.
Right, which is what we want.
And that's fine, and that's
And I think
fine.
the day-to-day we'll get from a director.
When we meet with her in a second,
Yeah.
or whatever day we meet with her.
I was just gonna
Yeah.
say, so generally, what qualities would you like the commission to consider when selecting? Maybe just leave it general then, and
Yeah.
we'll get the range.
Yeah.
Okay, and we may get some that'll be, who knows,
Off topic.
complaining, yeah, off topic, because that happens all the time, right?
By quick.
Yeah.
Okay,
But I
Okay.
do think it's great that you guys are gonna have all these stakeholders, give them the opportunity to kind of supervise them.
yes.
I like the,
Yeah.
and with the survey, people who are happy may not say anything. People who have gripes will definitely have something to say, right? So I don't think we'll get every director to respond.
It's an open.
No,
thing,
it's
so-
an open thing to beyond just directors
You
even,
think we can
right?
get that back to, we could get back to the channel list and get pushed out? by
Oh,
this
yeah,
Friday?
so Friday too.
I hope so. I mean,
I think I can.
we
too.
could probably
Dedicate
get
time.
I think all the county emails should be pretty easy because it would go to TPS staff, right? So that's, you already have that within our county system. The departments, we have all their emails,
Oh, do you have those?
the council
the
members
listings?
and then
Um,
the council members and the mayor, is that the other stakeholder?
Oh, definitely.
No, I think you said
Yeah,
the
sure.
list that aligned,
And the unions. Yes, I
Yeah.
think that's what we have for a line.
so she has that.
That goes out from the Civil Service Commission email.
Yes.
Yeah, okay. From
So,
Misha would help us,
I
yeah.
do not have that, but I can get the list
Oh.
of stakeholders.
I think,
But you
But I can
control
send an
the
email.
email, right? And
Yeah.
Yukari, I'll work with you to finalize the email too.
Okay.
I'll draft something and you can help me.
do you guys want to do a motion to authorize Sharon to work
Okay, yeah.
with party?
Unless you.
Make a motion. Make a motion to authorize Sharon to work on the email,
Stakeholders.
stakeholder engagement email, and to collaborate with Corp Counsel and Department of Personnel Services to send out that email to the stakeholder group.
Second.
Any discussion? All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Seeing none, the motion carries.
Misha, I think the
That's
only
fine.
external one.
So I'll try to get it out to them by Friday too then, yeah. I was gonna ask you.
Can you send that to the
HR
commissioners
specialist.
when you push it out?
You have more HR.
Or is that email?
I thought you
It's the
were just
email.
requesting it, but
Include that in there.
it's easier.
Okay, is there anything else we need to discuss? It's been a very
But that's-
interesting meeting. A lot of things accomplished, so thank you, everyone.
We made progress.
On the.
Yeah,
we're already
just
to
thought
it.
I was gonna review that.
And
Yeah.
so you already voted to authorize her to finalize it.
Yeah, we did.
Yeah,
And
I just feel bad though, because also the Mahalo letter, like, I don't know if I'm allowed to send it to you, so I just sent it to Misha. So, sorry.
And we don't need a motion for that, right? Just a Mahalo letter. Do we need a motion for that?
Oh, to Priya?
To Priya.
Well, to the-
Well, to
To her,
Josiah,
to her.
sorry,
Just a special appreciation for her support.
managing director.
Yeah.
Yeah, you probably need a motion to speak on behalf of the group.
I'll make a motion to have a letter drafted on behalf of the commission to thank Priya for her support through this process.
For Priya or for managing director?
Was to express appreciation to Priya, for Priya,
For Priya.
For Priya, yeah.
for Priya,
But
to the
to
managing director.
The managing director.
That's how I draft.
We can CC her in too, right? I mean, it'll be.
Second.
No, so moved.
Okay,
Okay.
thank you.
Okay.
Oh, sorry.
Hey, Sharon,
So
moved by
we
Greg.
moved it.
Any further discussion? All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
See, the motion carries. Thank you very much.
Good time to end.
Ladies, thank you for keeping us online here.
Oh,
How do you, these parameters, we gotta bounce in and out of because of sunshine law. It's just amazing.
Yeah, that's fine. I didn't think I could talk to you after the tick dissolved. It's like, did the tick dissolve on the?
I know, and it's always changing the sunshine law. They amend it like every year in the legislature, so.
And with that, I'll make it a motion to adjourn our meeting.
Are we recessing or adjourning?
Adjourn. I move to adjourn.
Yeah, we have a motion to adjourn. Is there a second?
Second.
Okay, all those in favor say aye. The motion carries. Thank you. Thank you, everyone.
Thank you.
You said, you think your blood pressure has gone up a little bit throughout the meeting.
Every time we said, we should some help, she like went down for a moment.